the point is that we've been like really deeply brainwashed, not just in our own lives, but like our ancestors were brainwashed for many generations, okay? We were brainwashed out of like a God-centered worldview into this materialistic one. In your day-to-day life, you're very God-centered and everything, and then you go to the doctor and you kind of like forget how centered you were. God is in control of everything, right? And his reason for creating human beings is to draw them nearer to him. The purpose of mankind's existence, it's not just to like play around and have fun and, you know, enjoy yourself and then die and go to heaven, right? There's a reason, right? And it's a very, very meaningful existence, and there is good and evil, and it is a test, and you can pass or fail, and you can do the right thing, the wrong thing. It wouldn't be fair if there wasn't ongoing feedback all the time. You ask people, like, is pain good or bad, right? Like, all pain is meant to do is prevent you from getting hurt, right? So the earlier you realize that the thing that's uncomfortable or painful is just trying to protect me, it's trying to tell me something, it's trying to say, hey, get away from that thing that's actually harming you. So the pain is your friend, the pain is the messenger. So if you have a king in a castle and, you know, somebody comes running up, there's barbarians at the gate, and he kills the messenger because he doesn't like to hear the message. Like, that's foolish, right? And yet that's what we do in modern medicine and in a lot of traditional medicine, which has been misinterpreted.
Throughout history, in every generation, there's a group of men, women, and children who are able to see the world in a way that others do not. They see answers when others see problems. They see hope when others see despair. They stand up to tyrants when others cower in fear. We are in search of this generation's Copernicus, Galileo, Harriet Tubman, Joan of Arc. Those who take a stand for justice, walk boldly in faith, and find solutions that are outside of the box. Those who are willing to lay their lives on the line for truth, will never compromise, back down, or give in. Men and women of character and grit, living fearlessly in the face of tyranny.
And don't let anybody ever tell you that it's white or black. Christ belongs to all people. He belongs to the whole world.
Join us for deep discussions and hard-hitting conversations with the who's who, the best and the brightest minds on the front line. Welcome to the Outliers, today's world changers. Hey guys, welcome back to Resistant Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle. We had a conversation with Dr. Syed Haider. He called in via Zoom to encourage Patriot Gallery in the protocol that Dr. Shabazz, which you can find through mygotodoc.com/Hakeem. Dr. Shabazz had done a consultation with Patriot Gallery about 10 months ago, would you say? And there was so much in that protocol, and she was able to do some of it, but not all of it. And we were texting Dr. Haider an update on Patriot Gallery and how well she was doing, but here were some of the things that still are lagging and whatever. And he said, if she would be willing to talk to me, I would love to talk to her. And we said, okay, that sounds great. Thank you so much. And then Patriot Gallery was like, well, but wait, because she always wants you guys to get the same information that we have. She says, but if you're going to schedule a call with him, can we just record it and then everybody else gets the information? So I presented that idea to Dr. Haider, and of course he was gracious enough to say yes. And so what you're about to watch is that conversation. It's not just a personal conversation because we went into it knowing that it was going to be a program that we were going to share with you guys, but it is still, I think, almost exactly how the conversation would have gone if you guys weren't going to be privy to the actual event. So I'm really excited for you guys to listen to this because you're going to be encouraged, you're going to be uplifted, and there's so much God throughout everything that Dr. Haider was talking about. What do you think, Leah?
I think you guys are going to be very encouraged. So please watch this episode and
share it.
And and this is what I tell people, take the messages that the God is speaking to you and allow it to bring health and healing to you. Not everybody is going to be able to contact Dr. Shabazz. And if everybody in the world did, he wouldn't have the time to do it. So God has a plan for each and every one of you. And it could be that many of you, if you're having, some issues, or maybe you're not having some issues, you want to prevent some issues, maybe you are going to contact Dr. Shabazz. Maybe you need to have encouragement to know that you can do a lot of these different protocols to help detox your system. And maybe you just needed to hear that God loves you and he has a wonderful plan for your life, and that there is a system of rewards and punishments when we're trusting in the God of the universe, and that he has things in nature that have been stolen from us. Yeah. So sometimes we need to replace those the best way that we can. And I think the one thing I hope that you walk away with, whether you contact a Shabazz or whether you go through some of the protocols or whether you just do some changes in your own life, is that you'll do your best. Everything that God has given you to do,
Yeah.
you'll do, and then you'll go that little extra mile. And
Yeah.
you'll say, "Okay, God, what do you want me to do here? How do you want me to fix not just my body?" And I hope that you walk away that this is not a program about your body, but your soul.
That's good. Exactly.
And in essence, everything that we do should draw us closer to God, and we want to, live here as long as we can. But there are always kind of excruciating, extenuating circumstances,
that are sometimes
yeah. And there's some things beyond our control.
Yeah.
And he kept emphasizing that you have to trust God with a lot of these things.
Yeah.
This is beyond my control. This is beyond my control. This is beyond my control, but I'm going to do everything that you've given me to do, and then I'm going to trust that you're going to do the rest.
Amen. That's right. So without further ado, here's your inside sneak peek to a very wonderful and encouraging and uplifting and very educational conversation between Dr. Syed Haider, Leah, and myself, and even our mom, Patriot Gallery, which is really exciting. All right. Enjoy.
The way God works in the universe is that the outcome is, going to be the way he wants it to be, right? So God will take you to the place he wants to take you one way or the other. So either you go willingly or you go, unwillingly, and he drags you to where he wants you to go.
Wow.
And so the only difference is that the person who's dragged along is in a lot of like pain and discomfort, and their experience of life isn't as great as it could be if they just submitted and understood. It's not just submission. I mean, people have to know what they need to submit to in order to submit, right? So, I mean, I know where you guys are coming from, so I know we're speaking kind of the same language. But anyway, it's like a reminder for me, a reminder for you, even though we may know it, and sometimes you forget aspects of it because humans just forget things, right? So something that you thought you knew very well, you don't know anymore because you just don't think about it all the time. So, and sometimes you see things from a different angle, and so it can change your perspective and change your understanding of what submission means. So I guess the point is that we've been like really deeply brainwashed, not just in our own lives, but like our ancestors were brainwashed for many generations. Okay. And we were brainwashed out of like a God-centered worldview into this materialistic one. And there's aspects of it that remain in our minds, even though we don't realize it, right? So, so it's almost like domain specific, where like in your day-to-day life, you're very God-centered and everything, and then you go to the doctor and you kind of like forget some aspects of
that's really good.
God-centered you were. And so basically, God is in control of everything, right? And his reason for creating human beings is to draw them nearer to him. And correct me if I'm wrong, or if I say something you don't agree with, and we can get into it a little bit more. But like the purpose of mankind's existence, it's not just to like play around and have fun and enjoy yourself and then die and go to heaven, right? There's a reason, right? And it's a very, very meaningful existence. And there is good and evil, and it is a test, and you can pass or fail, and you can do the right thing or the wrong thing. And it wouldn't be fair if there wasn't ongoing feedback all the time, right? Like, yes, you're going the right way. No, you're not going the right way, right? And so you ask people, like, is pain good or bad, right? Like, from one perspective, it's bad because it hurts, but all pain is meant to do is prevent you from getting hurt, right? So the earlier you realize that the thing that's uncomfortable or painful is just trying to protect me, is trying to tell me something, is trying to say, hey, get away from that thing that's actually harming you. So the pain is your friend. The pain is the messenger. So it's like, you have a king in a castle and, somebody comes running up, there's barbarians at the gate, and he kills the messenger because he doesn't like to hear the message. Like, that's foolish, right? And yet that's what we do in modern medicine and in a lot of traditional medicine, which has been misinterpreted, right? Like the core of it has been lost over the eons. And so when we're hyper focused on the disease and the symptoms and like quote unquote solving the problem that we see, right? We're just misinterpreting. We're not getting the message that God's trying to send us. We're not understanding what the message actually is. And so there are two possibilities. Say you have like a perfected human being, you know, if that's possible, and they know everything God wants and they're fully submission and everything. And you ask like, well, like, okay, this person has a disease now. This person has gone blind, or this person, you know, has some problem. Like their soul is perfected. Why is God giving them this problem if like the soul is just, you know, if the body is just a reflection of the soul and all that, right? So number one, as long as you're alive, your soul still hasn't reached the point of perfection God wants you to reach before he takes you back to him. But number two, he's also trying to benefit other people through you, right? He's trying to show you that there's two basic causes of disease happening. One is that there's an imbalance inside you that you need to correct, and it's being reflected in your body, right? An imbalance in your soul that filters down through different layers. It filters down through the mind and the emotions and the energetic level and then the physical level, and then it finally manifests. And then the other possibility is that there's like a lot of things that humanity as a whole has done wrong to harm itself. And, you know, if God gives a disease to somebody who's maybe very, very godly and very, very on track, and their soul is, you know, doing fine, and they're just tweaking it, you know, along their path until they reach the end. One of the reasons he could do that to somebody, you know, along with like helping them build patience and helping perfect them even more, is so that they understand what is making mankind sick, so that they can fix it, and they can go and tell people that, hey, you know, one of the things that's making us, you know, the many things that are making us sick that I figured out on my own healing journey, you know, like non-native EMFs, right? Like Wi-Fi and cellular signals and light at night, you know, which is unnatural, and living in a state of like an unnatural state of being, and all the toxins and all the chemicals and like, fine, I understand, you know, a lot of people understand that. They, you know, RFK Jr. is, you know, raising the alarm that there's only so many things it could be that are making us sick. But what people don't understand is that you can fix it, but it's not that easy. Okay, so it's a little difficult because we have polluted the environment so badly.
It's hard to run away from it. Like we go past them and we like curse the 5G.
No, yeah, we do.
We're like, be gone, foul spirit.
That's what we do, yeah.
It's because it's one of those things where it's like, I think about it a lot, and it almost gives me a little bit of peace that the fight is like starts here, but there's a lot of things you can't do to run away from it. You know, like it's everywhere. I think, you know, maybe in Puerto Rico it's not as, but in Cincinnati and Ohio or whatever, like it's like the actual like what you're talking about with the EMFs and the, you know,
and then the spraying that they're doing. I mean, some people you just can't escape.
Right.
Even
toxins,
if you go to the
right?
country in America, because
Yes.
everything is
that's
sprayed.
actually almost worse in some aspects.
They
because
kill
that's
more
where
bees.
there's like it's harder to be a beekeeper because I'm a beekeeper, and I talk to the country beekeepers that have like the corn and the soybean fields near them. Their bees have a harder die off because of the chemicals, whereas in the city we don't get as many pesticides as they do out in what should be rural, healthy America.
Yeah. And now it's going into space, right? So like there's really no escaping, you know, satellite technology beaming cell phone signals down at everyone around you, right?
I thought about that. I'm like, that's not a star.
Yeah, no. So I guess the point is that the way God has created the universe is that systems automatically correct themselves because pain happens and things become dysfunctional. And then eventually it becomes so painful and so obvious that you stop doing the thing that's hurting you, right? And human beings, since we are able to make choices and fool ourselves and create all these stories and fool other people, you know, because of greed and all kinds of reasons, the dysfunction can continue a lot longer, right? And so select people, I think, are chosen to be truly God's vice regents on earth and help to correct the system that is falling into ruin,
Right.
and is not auto-correcting because people are covering up the problem. They're putting band-aids
Yeah.
on it, right? And so and all change starts in one human heart and then it spreads to other people, right? So this is the way change happens, and one person can change the entire world if they really accept the mission, right? If they truly, sincerely, do what they should. And one person can be far more powerful than millions,
That's
right?
good.
Who are blind and just like, as they say nowadays, NPCs, non-player characters,
Right,
like you're
right.
just you're a robot,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You're stuck in the matrix and you're not contributing. You're just going along with the lemmings, right? You're going over the cliff with everyone else. But one person can change all that. And the way it happens is that, like, the way people are truly convinced is in when one person changes themselves. And it's not like, it can't be a superficial thing. It can't be like just talking about it, just like putting together the right words and sounding charismatic. Like that might inspire people for a day or two, but the real inspiration comes when they can tell that this person's heart has changed and their mind and their body, and something has really shifted in them at a level that can't you can't fake it. Okay. Right? There's no faking it. So the thing that will spread to other people and change them is when you change at a level that can't be faked.
That's really
right?
good.
And they're like, okay, something real has happened here, that's miraculous, essentially, right? And when they see the miracle happen in your life, then it spreads to them, and then they're willing to do hard
good.
work, right?
Yeah.
They're willing to do something hard. The only reason people don't do hard work is because they're not fully convinced that they'll get the fruits of that labor.
100%.
Especially in the modern world, when these usurious bankers for generations have been stealing our wealth, through interest. You work harder and harder and harder, right?
Right.
A few generations ago, one person could carry a household, right?
Yeah.
And then they convinced all the women, no, it's your right to work. But like the whole point was that, like, actually you need two incomes, so we're going to try to like Tom Sawyer with his like painting the
You
fence.
want to do it, don't you want to do it?
Right? You want to do it, right? Yeah. You actually want this. You actually want this. You don't want
My
to stay at
favorite
home.
is the girls in STEM.
The
They're
science,
like, we don't have
technology,
enough girls in STEM. We got to
engineering and
convince them
mathematics.
that they really want to go into science,
Yeah.
technology, and they don't want to do
Engineering
it,
and mathematics, yeah.
but we got to
Yeah.
convince them that they do.
Yeah. So I'm kind of getting off track, but what was my?
You said a
what's the
few
point I was trying to
generations
make?
ago,
Yeah.
one person could carry a household.
And then you're talking about the bankers.
Yeah. So basically, we're being brainwashed over time, and so in order to change the world, we have to change ourselves. And the main point that I was getting at was that it's difficult to fix things at this point in history. Like if you went back 1,000 years and somebody had like a similar medical problem, it would be a lot easier to fix. They're under way less
Yeah.
stress. They have a much wider support network, right? People can't even imagine the level of stress. Like they don't understand that they're under stress because they can't imagine what society used to be like
That's
1,000
really
years
good.
ago, right? They cannot even begin to comprehend
Yeah.
how wide the support network was. No one fell through the cracks. Okay.
Yeah.
Like you could not, because it wasn't just that there was a huge extended family. There was a huge extended like parish and parishioners, and everyone loved each other, and everyone cared for each other. Everyone knew each other.
Right.
And if somebody was starting to falter, everyone would rush and pick them up. Right. And so it was like a social support network that didn't rely on the government. It relied on like love and connections between neighbors and extended neighbors and a nation. But it was huge. Okay. And it was so much more caring and loving than, Social Security can possibly be,
Right.
right? You
on.
can't replace it with money.
Wow.
Okay. Because you don't trust these people, right? Like, are you really going to be there for me when I need you? Is Social Security going to run out, right? Like we've transferred all that trust to like somebody in Washington who's not trustworthy and has, and who's, mismanaging all the funds and all of that, right? So money can't replace what humans actually need. And so my point here is that there's a lot of stress that's like subconscious weighing down on us because we're like, okay, well, if I get disabled and the couple of people around me who are managing the house and bringing in the money also are gone or lost or die or whatever, right? Like, then what do I do, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just a couple of, things holding up your table, right? You've
really
knocked
good.
away a lot of the legs, there's just, it's teetering, right? And we've just gotten used to it. Okay. So we just think that this is normal. This level of stress is normal. This level of like, worrying about the future and where's the money going to come from and all that is just normal. And on the one hand, right, like it asks a lot more of us in terms of trusting God, and it helps us to grow in that way. But my point is it creates a lot of background stress, which helps to create disease. And again, the point of the disease is to tell you, like, if you can understand it, that stress is what's causing it. And then you have to understand, where is the stress coming from? One of those sources is the personal relationships have, broken up and fallen apart. So I'm not saying like you guys are doing the best you can in the modern world. And yet you're still way more stressed out than you would be if you were living 1,000 years ago.
1,000,000%.
With your ancestors,
I would say like
right?
100 years ago, maybe not 100, like
even
150, like,
And then
No, you don't have to go back that far.
I get it. I mean, because our social network has had to be cut off because our dad was abusive and he had family and they're alcoholics. And our other family, my mom's brothers and sisters, who are incredibly wealthy. We have a lot of wealth on either side. And you would think
we come from lots of money. We just don't seek it.
We just don't have it.
We don't seek it.
Yeah, because we chose a different path. And so in that different path is a lot of stress, because there is like our grandma, she would be one that we would have relied on, would be the only one. So there's no one left.
Right.
So for Michelle and I, it's it. Like we're each other.
And
like,
I really enjoyed, and I don't want to get on a rabbit trail here, but I have enjoyed your talks on, my friend Catherine didn't, she's one of your biggest fans, but my friend Catherine didn't love this at all because she's single and just can't fix this problem. But I see it more holistically about how men and women are supposed to interact, and how that kind of stress is not intended to be on women the way that it is right now. Just like even hugging, when you were talking about that, like we don't hug. We're not a huggy family, right? So we don't get hugs like we should. I know when my mom came out of the hospital, we were hugging her a lot, but then it's kind of like waned off in the last year because I'm just not a hugger. But I crave it, right? And you crave that. You need it. Your body would thrive on that. And so my friend Catherine, who was, like I said, she still is one of your biggest fans, by the way. You have your long COVID protocol has pulled her out of long COVID. It's so huge. But she was getting so upset because she's like, but I can't do anything about it. And she was like taking it personally. And I'm like, just because you can't fix it, God can come in, and God is so gracious.
It's like 5G. You have to know that it's damaging you.
But the point is that I was bringing it back into this is that, we haven't had men in our lives. And so that stress of, provider, whatever, has fallen on our shoulders, and we just have to do it. But it's not God's perfect design, and it's not the way that he wants us to live.
And men aren't designed to do it by themselves either.
And men are designed to be in community. And so I really appreciated and have appreciated you taking that that kind of non-popular stance of, just even human interaction, and how personal touch and communication and all of that really, really affects our health.
So one thing the Amish still understand. I think.
Yeah. Love heals.
Yeah. So I think what is important to focus on is that there's always a solution. Like God has been incredibly merciful to human beings, in that the way he's designed the universe and all of nature and our own bodies is that they're incredibly complex, and they're able to put up with a lot of imperfections in the environment around them to a point, right? And there's more than one way to solve a problem. You don't have to solve it in one way. But what that also brings up is that the thing that, like, the solution that you find comfortable, if it's no longer available, you're going to have to go outside your comfort zone to find an alternative solution to that same problem.
Right.
So for example, like the hugging thing, right? Like 150 years ago, if you went back and lived with your ancestors, maybe they weren't very huggy people, but like just the fact that there were so many of them
That's really
all
good.
around all the time, spending all this time with each other, they didn't need the hugs. Okay.
good.
So like,
I like it.
yeah, my mom also, right? Like she's Swedish and, English and, that's her, she comes
Remember,
from
we're
there.
like related.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah. And so I think a lot of Europeans aren't that, huggy as
Right.
maybe, people from down south, in southern parts of the world might be.
Right.
So, but the point is that like they solved that problem in their own way, in their own time. And now we're in a different time when we have to solve all of our problems anew because everything has changed, right? We have to figure out the solutions for the current world. So we have to apply ancient wisdom that God has taught man throughout history. And you basically have to follow the principles and then you have to apply them to the modern world. And so you have to update your own religion and your own understanding of the way things have to happen.
That's good.
You have to find the solution that just fits your current environment. And so like you tell people, oh, you're going to have to do breath work. You're going to have to do these breathing exercises 20, 30 minutes a day. And they're like, I don't want to do breath. What are you talking about? I didn't grow up doing breath work, And it's like, I'm sorry, but like that's all I could find, that would work in this situation. Right?
Oh, that's
like,
good.
Like,
you
don't have a man and you're stressed out about this.
Let's breathe. Yes, I get
and
it.
there's EMFs coming and like all this stuff, and your nervous system is all riled up, right? Like,
yes.
And you gotta like balance it. You gotta balance it somehow, some way. And so if you're not going to go for like hug sessions, every day for 30 minutes, you sit at home and do some breath work.
I think I'd rather do the breath work than hug Leah. It's terrible.
We go to nursing homes. I'll hug old people all day.
I'll hug a bunch of other people. It's just that's as far as it goes. That's all I got.
Right. Actually, I mean, this is great. I'm glad you brought it up. Like actually going to nursing homes is one of the best hacks in the modern world for fixing this problem. Yeah, because like those people are so grateful when you show up, especially if they don't have anyone visiting them. And you can just spend like a few minutes, a week or a day or whatever, just talking to people, asking them about themselves. They're so lonely, and it feeds you just as much as it does them, if not more. So yeah, I mean, somebody gave me this advice once who actually was a foreigner and didn't live here, and he gave us this advice when he was so shocked to learn that like so many elderly people in the West have no one visiting them and they're living in nursing homes, and like he was just like bowled over. He could not believe it. And he was like, whenever you spend time in the West, go to those nursing homes and just sit with somebody.
So
that's one of the things you can do. So you got to figure out what works in your own life, and eventually you have to trust somebody, even me, right? Like even somebody who knows as like, and I don't know as much as I possibly could, but even let's say somebody like Hippocrates, for example, right? Like somebody who really knew, Avicenna, whoever you want to pick, but somebody who really knew how to heal people at a deep level. It's still not really easy to heal yourself.
Yeah, it's so true.
Because you're too close to yourself. You're going to cut yourself some slack. You're not going to do the work you need to do. You're just not, So you need somebody on the outside looking in to be like, you know what, this is what you actually need to do. Okay. And even if like you still don't force yourself to do what you really need to do. You still just go too easy on yourself. So,
because you're always the exception.
Yeah, and
like you're always the exception. Like it'll be fine if I just do X, Y, Z. It's totally, and it's not fine for. I find that even as a minister, like you start to slack a little bit too, and like wait, no, I would not accept that from anybody else. Yeah. Can't accept that for myself.
So, so finally, like getting back to this point that like if people had certainty that something would work, they would do it, and you can draw a parallel to. How certain are you of heaven and hell, right? How certain you are of that reality at the end of your life determines how much effort you put in to avoiding the forbidden and doing what's been commanded and spreading the message, right? The gospel to other people. That it's a direct correlation to how strong your own certainty is, right? And so the people who have the farthest, who can see the farthest, which is into the next world itself, into eternity, are willing to work hardest in this limited life, right? And for people like that, you have to like convince them that if you do what I say, you will get better. And it's not just a physical problem, it's really a spiritual problem. Whether it's your spiritual problem or whether it's other people's spiritual problem that you need to help fix, whether it's your whole society that's sick, that you're going to become a force for helping correct by showing them, I did this because of these things that you all are doing. And the sickness that it brought me, right? I did this, it was hard, but I completely fixed it. Now, all the other people who are suffering, this acts as a proof, a beacon that's like saying that, yes, it is not just your genes or just, this or that. And you don't need to rely on imperfect solutions that will actually end up harming you, because all the other solutions are not getting at the deepest root cause. So they're not actually addressing, they're focused on the messenger and they're killing the messenger. And when you kill the messenger, the barbarians don't disappear from the gate. They keep attacking and they eventually break in. And then you have new messengers running up telling you they've breached the gate, and you kill them, right? The messengers will keep coming until you're dead, until they're all dead and you're dead, right? Like once they're all gone, you're gone too, right? They've broken into the throne room and you're dead too. So you will keep getting more messages if you try to fix the problem in the wrong way, which is like anything short of going to the deepest causes. And it's going to be like a number of things, like, and you have to either remove the harm or you have to neutralize the harm. Okay. So a lot of it is already inside your body. There's toxins and pathogens that have overgrown in your body. You're going to have to kill them and you're going to have to get them out. And it's a slow, gradual process. Like if you try to force a complicated natural system like a rainforest or a human body into a new state of being, like from sickness straight to health, it will all break. You can't push it that hard, okay? You have to be gentle and you have to go slowly. So you have to be patient. And that's just the way natural systems work. And the natural systems, like your body, they are designed, right? Like nature and you were designed by the same person to communicate with each other, right? Like you speak a language, right? Like the sun tells your body something and your body responds to it and it does something because it's getting that message. And what you eat tells you something, and what you smell and what you see and where you spend your days and nights, they all tell you something, right? They send you messages, very, very complicated messages. They're not simple. They're not like, okay, time to wake up. That's it, right? Like they lead to a cascade of effects, okay? So you can't take those messages and create an artificial version of them, right? Like that's why vitamin D doesn't really work as well. It doesn't work nearly as well as going out in the sun and getting UV, or even eating the foods that have the vitamin D in them, because they've been programmed by the sun with all the messages that the sun would have given you, your body, your skin, right? When it hit you, all of those messages have been programmed into the food so that you're getting an indirect message of the sun through the food, okay? You can't get it from taking a little, like a letter from an entire book. You're not going to understand the book when you take a letter out of it, okay? And just read even a paragraph out of a 1,000-page book is going to make no sense. You're not going to know what to do based, if you take just one letter from the Bible and try to understand what God wants you to do from that one letter, right? Out of all context. Yeah, it's from the Bible, but it's not going to be very helpful.
Right.
So, yes, it's divine revelation, but you need the context. Okay. Yeah. So this is why you can't like this is why everything else will ultimately fail, is because you're trying to, it's almost like I've said it before, is like you're trying to, like you think you understand something very complicated, and really you're just like a monkey in a nuclear submarine who has some understanding of reality and the way practical physics works, but they don't understand what's going on in a nuclear submarine.
Right.
They can't. We can't. We can't understand the mind of God. And that's actually what we're discovering. The deeper into nature we look, is how beyond us it actually is. It's not as simple as we thought, okay? Like 10,000 years ago or 1,000 years ago, you could have forgiven them for thinking, oh, it's pretty simple. It's pretty easy, right? Like, not that hard, like to make a heart and to do this and that. Like it's just, it's just like steam engines, and like we've made steam engines. We understand how they work, not that complicated, and every advance of technology, we take that and we're like, oh yeah, the brain must be like a quantum computer, blah blah blah, right? Like not, yeah. I mean, sure, we haven't quite built one yet, but we can see how it works, right? Like, no, it's not that. It's way beyond that complicated, right? Like every time you zoom in, the complexity explodes even further, right? So the closer you look, the more like awed you become at the mind of God, at how he created all of this. And the only way to achieve goodness is through the means that he created and gave you and commanded you to do, okay? And so those are the things that are in nature, the natural things that he created. And the natural, and basically is like, you have to, like Mars, imagine Mars. Mars would kill you. If you like appeared on Mars right now in these clothes, you would be dead instantly, right? That's it's a terrible, inhospitable environment, not designed for human beings by God, right?
Not designed, Elon.
Yeah, and then you've got this, right? You've got this,
right?
We love this because it was designed for us, right? We were designed to love this. It was designed to love us, right? We're designed to be in this. Now, between this and Mars, there's a whole spectrum of environments that get closer and closer to Mars, okay? Yeah. So sitting indoors is closer to Mars than it is to outside. That's really good. Right? It's not healthy, okay? And if you do it too much, you won't be able to be healthy, okay? So you got to sit outside. You got to be in your natural environment that God created for you as much as possible. You got to correct it as much as possible, even if it's like some weird way of doing it. Like I have a grounding sheet that's like literally plugged into my yard and going through my window and plugged in, and it's grounding me while I'm sleeping, because my house wasn't built grounded, because our entire economic system was just geared towards make the most money as fast as possible, rather than like, is this right or wrong? And like, I guarantee you, people were trying to convince them all the entire way that no, stop, this is wrong. We shouldn't be building like this. We shouldn't be doing this. It's gonna hurt us. It is already hurting us. Like literally, like we've lost all of that. We've forgotten all of it. But people, every single step of the way, were kicking and screaming and trying to convince everyone that like, hey, I got sick when I started living in this kind of house and this kind of environment. That's probably why you're sick, right? Like, this is not natural. We got to like, build differently. We got to do differently. We got to, so EMFs and the things just keep accelerating, right? So I guess.
So I want to show you something. Yeah. This, and I need a new mat. But these are alligator clips.
This is our grounding. Like we did this like 8 years ago. We've been doing
this. Wire goes all the way outside to a to
the same thing you have, a pole that goes
in the ground. And no joke, if you are standing on the grounding mat, which I need a new one.
He knows because he does it.
But I'm telling the viewers.
Oh, okay.
If you clip this clip to like a mat of metal, and you're standing in front of your computer, and you put a multimeter up to yourself, it goes to zero. When you step outside of the mat, standing near a computer, it skyrockets.
Which means you have this like energy.
So this is what you're talking about, is that, if we can't get away from it, then you have to come up with a different solution.
The other alternative to this is to go outside and stand barefoot. That's what, then you're instantly your own grounding rod.
Twice a day.
What, Mom?
Twice a day.
Twice a day, yes. Dr. Shabazz said, protocol. Mom.
Before, noon, and after when the sun goes down.
So I guess this, for some reason, brings up something that I wanted to say as well. So before I forget it, the protocol, right, like that you get that's individualized from Shabazz, is like designed the way like a rocket ship is designed, that's taking you to the moon. Like if you go in there and you throw away the nose cone, it's not going to get to the moon, right? The place you want to go is the moon. And
Mom's showing up. Mom, put it in front of you so they can see it. It's blurred otherwise.
There it is.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that they're going to be able to see it. I'll have to show it because I don't have you recorded, but Dr. Haider can see it.
So you need all the parts basically, right? Like if you're building a car to go to Philadelphia and you decide I don't really need the tires, you're not going to make it to Philadelphia. Okay. So it depends. Like you just want to spin your wheels and not get anywhere and just like, give yourself a lot of, headache for, you might see some benefit, right? And it's not that like a partial protocol is not going to help clear up some of your problem. It will. But a partial protocol is not going to actually get you where you want to go, which is to fix the deeper root causes. Like it might just kill the messenger. Okay. So like you don't want to kill the messenger. Like parts of the protocol will kill the messenger if you don't use all of the protocol together, right? If you just take parts of it, like if you just take some herbs, like those herbs may effectively cover up your symptoms and you're like, oh my God, he's amazing. This person, Shabazz, God bless him and everything. He fixed me. No, if you didn't do the whole thing that he recommended and only what he recommended and threw away other stuff that like a million other people recommended or that you came up with yourself, like you didn't actually accomplish what he was trying to do for you, and something will pop up. Either the same problem pops up again or some new problem pops up, or you haven't completely fixed your old problem, right? So you've gone, half the way there, but you haven't finished the journey. And so the journey is to get to the root cause and figure out like, why is God sending me this pain? Why do I feel pain, right? I'm feeling pain. A lot of other people are feeling the same pain. And there's a solution to the pain. God wants you to find the solution, right? Like God doesn't give you pain in this life just to torment you for no reason. Okay. Like it does torment people. It is tormenting, but there's always a reason for everything that happens in the universe, right? Why do good things happen? They're not just so that you can like lay back and enjoy yourself, they're so that you're grateful for them, right? Like everything calls for a response, a reaction. The appropriate reaction to blessings is gratitude, utter gratitude. You didn't make them yourself. They didn't come from you. You didn't deserve them even, right? You deserve nothing, right? You didn't deserve even to be created from nothing, okay? Like there was nothing, and then God created you from nothing. You didn't exist. You didn't even know you would exist, right? Like we all like we are just should be like constantly utterly grateful. Thank you for even making me in the first place. And then not just making me, but continuing to remake me every moment, right? That's like good. If he stops making you, you'll just wink out of existence again, right? Like you're utterly dependent on God, right? At every moment of your life. And so what is the response to blessings? At least one of them is just utter gratitude. Like, thank you so much for giving me this. And the response to pain and tribulation is patience, but also like, if there's trying to figure out why it's come to me, right? And fix it. Okay. So it's not just like, oh, God just wants me to suffer. Okay.
Right.
Yes, maybe, but like usually there's more to it than that. It's usually not just he wants you to suffer. Like, fine, suffering does build people up and make them stronger. And yes, you will benefit from suffering, right? So that's, again, that's the point of it. The point of the suffering is to make you stronger, right? Not to tear you down. And the point of disease, again, is to make you stronger and to help you get away from the things that are trying to break you down.
I think that the best for me, and I just want to say this for our audience, because I think this is what you mean. It's not that God wants us to suffer. That's not it at all. Just like our own bodies don't want to have to produce pain. Like God never, but there is a result, sin enters the world, right? And so there is a result of when we are away from God or in sin or other people's sin are in our lives or whatever. God never intends for us to suffer, but the suffering, it produces it's supposed to, just like pain, produce a wake-up call that something is wrong, right? And so yes, God instituted suffering, right? But it's not like that was ever his will. And I would say 100% of the time, it is never God's will for you to suffer if we talk about God's perfect will. Okay. But God institutes suffering the way that he instituted our bodies to have pain. Like you've been talking about since we started, that pain is supposed to be telling you something is wrong and we need to fix it. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, Mom.
Okay. First of all, we need proper introductions. You need to say, hi, this is Resistance Chicks.
Okay, well, I was going to do that at the end. If I do it right now, I won't find it. Let me remind me, and we'll do it at
Dr.
the end.
Haider,
Put
like
that
you
behind
always do, give him a big
I was going to do it at the end
grand
Yeah.
introduction.
for the show. We'll do
because
that.
he
I
should be
promise.
pumped up a lot.
Okay.
So people go watch his show and go to him for help.
Okay.
And then I've never met Dr. Haider. You didn't introduce us.
I'm sorry.
yeah.
So, Dr. Haider, this is our beautiful mom. She feels like she knows you because she's
I
seen
watch
every
you
interview that
all the
we've
time.
done with you, right?
Yeah.
But you've not seen her, and she's literally a walking miracle. I will tell you though, even like moments before you came on, even earlier before they left the house, they went to the gym today, and she's like, "You're gonna have to be, ready because I'm gonna start crying." She's been so emotional in a
there
good
already.
way.
I see it. I see it.
Look at her there. She goes.
I can't talk without crying.
because you have been so instrumental in getting us to here, and we're still on the journey. We're still doing it, and we're going to talk about the protocol that Shabazz gave and the things that we haven't been able to implement, but we would like to because we tried. We went like 100%.
As
And
the
then-
Lord leads.
And then
Minus
Dr.
the coffee enemas, which we'll talk about today.
It's a big part of it. First of all, and,
is.
And
We'll
number
get-
two, number two, like he knows that like some people aren't going to be able to do every single little thing, but if that's the case, you have to go back to him and like negotiate a settlement.
We
that's
actually
good.
did. We did. So he was really great.
He's amazing.
And he says, he would like to
Do a follow up. We're going to do that.
But we did, and he was really great about it. When I said, we negotiated on the
Liter of water and broccoli.
yeah, we kind of were able to. Yeah, there was a whole liter of water right in the beginning of the day. And
Yeah.
Mom's like, my stomach hurts. Like, I can't get it all
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
But she's actually been able to get herself up. She drink, so all the different things. He said, you don't have
eventually
to
do it.
He goes, you don't actually have to do it all at one time. And you're not doing it forever. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of these things, like with the, some of the juicing, she just couldn't handle the one of the
In the
juice
beginning.
in the beginning. She couldn't handle all the juicing. So, but we did do the vegetables. We did do she still does the raw liver every day.
The broth is great.
We do the broth. We do it. So in the protocol, we did. Yeah, he negotiates. He's a good negotiator.
Before we get into that, I had a couple notes here. What Dr. Haider, what you were talking about is Jeremiah 6:16. And that's about get back to the old ways. Get back to
Ancient
farming.
paths.
Get back to mother staying home, raising children. Get back to teaching, training your own children. Don't expect others to take on your godly given responsibilities, basically. And I think I have a Christian audience, so they can't just, like, I had trouble with the hospitals and stuff because they're not Christian. I need scripture. I need God to lead me or guide me or whatever. And so I think Christians need that. They need scripture to back up what you say. And hugging children, like I hug my children growing up, like all the time. They were always getting hugs from me because I knew that was important. But what I'm saying is, when I did go to therapy and for medical therapy, I was like, whoa, wait, because I was being rebellious, you could say. And like, you guys are pushing me too hard. I can't do this. But I'm
You
like,
mean
wait.
the pulmonary therapy, Mom?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to make that choice. I knew it was going to save my life if I chose to I doubled it, because the Bible says if somebody has to go a mile, go 2. I said, I'm going 2 miles. I doubled everything they asked me to do because I did not want to be sick. I want to breathe. I want to be better. And so that's a choice you have to decide. But I used the word of God. It gave me power and strength to go ahead and do something, even though they're pharmaceuticals and they're witchcraft and all this other stuff. Well,
But you weren't they're not talking about doing the pharmaceutical stuff.
No.
You mean like the exercises. That's separate from
Jesus
the
says the
pharmaceutical
world
stuff.
is smart in what they do.
Yeah.
And so go with it, do it and do twice as much, because then I'm twice as healthy and everybody else there.
She is.
She
they
is. They
chose
talk
to
about it
do
all the
the
time.
extra.
Talk about a living testimony. When she went in, we do pulmonary therapy, and we go there twice a week. And and this is, again, you're supposed to be getting all of your workout outside, but they have specialty machines and they help build up your lungs, and you do arm exercises, and it's great.
And I do twice as much at home and exercise home every day. I want to continue out.
Go ahead, Mom.
I
Keep
just
your
have a
stream
few
of thought.
notes
Go ahead.
before we get too far ahead and away from what he was saying. So I did have to make that personal choice. It is a personal choice because I was like, I'm so against the pharmacy and so against hospitals because people, like you said, they're going to kill you. Don't go there. But then, you came along and saved my life and you say, go there. It's all according, like with suffering. You were talking about suffering. There are two types of suffering. Like if you go and plow a field, when you're done, and I'm talking about with horses, you're going to be sore all over. You're going to be aching all over. A mother picking up a child every day, a mother crying to be fed every day. There are suffering that you have to put up with. This is a very good suffering. And so we embrace that kind of suffering. But God doesn't want you to physically suffer, or he wants you to enjoy and get a full life. And if you're suffering all the time, you're not having a full life. But there's a good type of suffering that leads to a full, happy life, I mean, you get up and take care of patients every day. I mean, that's suffering. That's sacrificing. I mean, I saw it on your face. I saw on your show the other day, man, you're worn down. And Michelle said, don't say that. Because somebody had said it to her.
Because people will say that to Leah and I, like, man, you look really tired.
I'm like, well, that's
rude.
Because you guys refresh people. For some reason, they have a gift of refreshing people that come on their show. It's the Holy Spirit. They have very few interviews. They have very few audiences. They don't have millions of followers. But the people they do touch go out and touch millions, like yourself. You've touched millions through the Awakening Tour and everything like that. It's just a gift to give you life. Because somebody's pulling on you all the time. Who's going to give you the life if they pull the life out of you all the time? You need somebody like Leah and Michelle come along, and they just give you this gift of life because they're always smiling, right? They're not weighed down with big families and children and all these expenses. And so I wanted to say big families. And what happened was the crime and corruption of the counterfeited money. Purposefully by billionaires, millionaires, they wanted workers. They don't want families. They don't want people being individuals, farmers having big families. They wanted people in public schools where they can indoctrinate them. They wanted factories working for it. They wanted slave labor. And that's why they counterfeit money, because they don't want to pay you real gold and silver. And but the old-fashioned ways like introductions and going back to good manners and high morals, that's what saves lives. And thank you for saving my life. I can't say that because I'll start crying. You also need it comes to my mind. I did it to Dr. Artist because Dr. Artist also helped me. Truth in the mind and in emotions and peace. And you were talking about you were actually talking about David. If you read the Psalms, David's all over the place, but his body is speaking. His emotions are speaking. Lies are speaking. But then because God put the Holy Spirit upon him, then every Psalm he wrote, it would wrap up with the Holy Spirit at the very end. And that's when I tell Leah Michelle, I'm going to have to mention Jesus. I'm going to have to mention God because I go through all this. But in the end, it's the Holy Spirit that comes upon me, in me, through me, and brings the healing. But I have to be obedient to someone like yourself or Dr. Artist, or we had lots of
Dr.
Muslim
Shabazz.
doctors.
That's a harder name to say.
That saved my life. The one guy stuck the tube down my throat. Ventilators, you don't do that. I looked at Leah Michelle. I said, I'll never trust you again.
She did say that. That was right when she came off the vent, though.
But it supposedly saved my life.
She was so mad.
And extra exercising and stuff. And so I just want to wrap up a few things he was talking about, like suffering. There are two types of suffering.
That's good.
I was raised Catholic. Oh, God calls us suffering. No, he doesn't. There's a good kind of suffering. When you have to, my grandma was the eldest of her family. I was thinking she had Alzheimer's. But she forsook whatever, her whole family. She was 10 children, and she was the oldest. And she moved to Florida, and it was perfect, like you're living in Puerto Rico. But she had a calling to be the eldest of the family. So she had nieces and nephews and grandkids that didn't see her from 1965, and she passed away like in
late
1980s.
Yeah.
87. So all those years, she was away from her family and away from her calling. And one thing that keeps people alive, if they find their calling and they get in their calling and walk in that calling, and sometimes it's a big responsibility. Like she was the eldest and my mom was the eldest of a huge family. That's a big responsibility, but God will give you the gifts and the health to go along with it. And so one thing, don't turn your back on God and his calling. And it's a good time of suffering, for your family. And I mean, you take good care of those kids. We heard how you raise your kids. It's not so easy raising all those boys, especially boys.
Well, Dr. Haider only has 2 kids.
Really? I
I
thought he had.
have a daughter. I have a daughter.
Okay,
too.
you have two boys and
Yeah.
and a
Two
girl.
boys and a daughter.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not that hard, but you have to sacrifice and then take care of patients and stuff like that. There's a good kind of suffering that Jesus talks about. There's rewards in heaven for what you do on this earth. And that Leah Michelle just did a show on judgment yesterday. You'll be judged and you will be rewarded too. And so you'll be give account for what you did. So I'm done. Sorry.
That's good, Mom.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Sorry about the frog in my throat. I get it in the afternoon.
So I guess my
I wasn't looking at the
purpose
camera.
here, what I want to convince you of is to redouble your efforts, go back and really try to do everything that he recommends and tell him everything that you're doing, so that he can see if there's some things that you should stop doing that are not in his protocol. You got to be kind of like completely honest and
We
transparent
are. We're,
about.
we're really good about that.
Okay, yeah. And like if you really do everything and really focus and double down for just a few months, like he's pretty confident that you can actually get off the oxygen completely and get rid of the COPD and just really take your health to a whole nother level. And I know you're mostly off of it. You're obviously not on it right now, but even in the situations where you feel you need it, you could come off of it. And so like and then you can go and tell other people about it, right? You can say that I really got down to the bedrock problem, right? Like I didn't stop halfway or whatever, and this is the result. This is what happened. This is how hard it was. This is how easy it is now. And you can just give, a testimony that can convince people to really do what needs to be done to get better. And it's not just about like, okay, I did this and my disease went away. It also points at like, okay, why did you have to do all those things, right? Like that's the real problem in our world today is all those things that made me have to do this, right? So it also highlights those because you can go and kind of break down the protocol and be like, okay, this is basically what's going on in your body. No matter what the disease is, your organs got weakened due to this constant stress and onslaught of toxins, and then pathogens came in. In part they're trying to bind the toxins and help you, and in part they're trying to like kill diseased tissues so that your body can make new ones. But it gets out of hand, right? Because your body's just under so much stress, and the balance is shifted away from being able to rebuild, right? Towards it just goes towards like digestion, like what's supposed to be happening in your grave is happening right now, right? Like the bugs are eating, they're eating you up, right? Like, so it's like you're slowly dying essentially, right? And so we need to like bring your body back to life. And that requires a lot of concentrated nutrition, which is like has to come from a natural source. And the only way to get that much nutrition from natural source is to go to the organs and go to the juicing and go, so you can explain all of these things, and the sun is for this reason and the breathing is for that reason. And you can tell people like all of those things are fitting together for all of these different reasons. And that's just like the world we live in today. And so you have a choice. Either you understand what God is getting at, like what does your disease mean? Or you persist in this like misunderstanding where you don't know the mind of God, right? Like as a religious person, as a religious being, as a spiritual person, like you would rather know what he's trying to tell you than not know, right? And so the disease has a message for you.
That's good.
And if you go to the MD and you just take the pills and you just cover up that message, you're misunderstanding terribly the situation, and you're not going to benefit from what God wants you to benefit from. Like the message is meant to, it's like a helpful thing to take you to the next stage of your journey, whatever that next stage is. It's not just a physical healing. It's an emotional and a spiritual transformation that's supposed to happen. You're supposed to go from, you're supposed to turn into a butterfly, right? Like at each stage of your spiritual journey, it's supposed to be such an unflowering that's as big of a change as a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. And then the butterfly turns into an even more wonderful butterfly that it can't even imagine how wonderful that is, right? And the difference between that new manifestation and the butterfly is as much of a difference as the caterpillar to the butterfly in the first place, right?
That's
so
good.
my point is, if you're not constantly growing spiritually, you're stagnating, right? And there is something more because God is infinite, right? So like the journey in God is infinite. There's an infinite journey to be had, and you can go deeper and deeper and get closer and closer, and he will unveil more and more, of his kingdom to you, essentially, and you become, even more of a vice regent, and you gain more responsibility. This is like when a person accepts the responsibility they've been given by God, and they do it to their utmost, right? They truly fulfill that responsibility. Just like in a company or in a country, you get more responsibility. You get, you're sent up the ranks. You go up higher, and you get access to more responsibility because you're capable of more and you are worthy of more, right? So the same thing happens. Even if you don't see it happening, God will give you more responsibility for more of the world around you, okay? And then when you fulfill that, he'll give you even more, okay? And it doesn't always have to be obvious, like I've become like the leader of my church or something, but it will be there in some way or the other, whether it's hidden or not, whether it's hidden or apparent, it will exist.
Yeah.
Because this is just natural law that has been written by God. This is the way the universe works. So there is more, while you're alive, the journey's not over yet. And part of what's telling you which direction to go is all the stuff that's happening to you, including the disease that's affecting you, right? That disease is telling you, okay, now, maybe you want to go garden all day, but what you actually need to do is go take the coffee enema, right? So like what you want might look good to you, right? But like there are a lot of good things you could choose to do in the world, right? Anytime. And you have to choose from amongst them, which one does God want me to do, right?
Wait a minute, Michelle.
Yeah.
What?
Wait, Michelle. Let me say something.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. First of all, we don't have a bathtub, so I couldn't do
The
Epsom salt.
sits. That's on me. I need to fix it. We do have a bathtub. I haven't fixed the
I think
seal.
it's great for your body. He said to do Epsom salt bath every day. I love Epsom salt. It's great for your body. But what we did have is we had a swimming pool that Michelle uses salt.
It's a
and
salt
it turns
water.
it into salt
pool.
water. And so I would do the Epsom salt, but I have to use regular salt water. Swimming pool. I did that 30 minutes every day because that's what we're supposed to do. Epsom salt 30 minutes. It's not exactly the same, but I did do that. And then with the coffee enema, I couldn't do that. But we found that, I don't know if you ever heard of, I'm sure you're a doctor, world famous doctor. Okay. A Dubay. Okay.
Yeah.
That works great too for your enema and keeping you cleaned out.
But
you can use it for that purpose because I couldn't do the coffee enema, but I could do the what's it called? Duvet? How do you say that? Well,
but it's not the same
works
thing.
great.
So
I always laughed at him, and then I started using one that you connect.
It helped when she had hemorrhoids. It really helped with the hemorrhoids.
to give Dr. Haider this. This is you full transparency on the show, and you always want the doctor. Especially like Lee and I kind of see Dr. Haider like a big brother. You want your big brother, to come and say, you did a great job. I'm so proud of you. So full transparency, Mom not doing the coffee enema has a lot to do with Leah and I having a visceral aversion to the whole idea. So
but I do what I can.
Convince us we are ready to be sold. I am coming and I'm saying I'm ready to be convinced of their greatness so that we can get over the hurdle.
This sounds so dangerous.
It sounds just awful.
It sounds dangerous online.
But then I did have surgery and I did have polyps. I had diverticulitis, is that's right word
did,
for
but you
it.
had 3 growths in there
that
were
I couldn't
removed.
eat. That I lost like 50 pounds because I just couldn't eat. It was so painful to eat anything.
She has lost
and then
50
also
pounds
had my gallbladder removed.
in
But
less
then
than
he
a
gave
year.
me gallbladder
Yes.
medicine. So every time I eat to take that really helps. That gallbladder medicine.
Shavaz has her on some gallbladder supplements.
Process. It's right here.
Standard
Ancient
process.
It's here. It is because I have it right near me. Because everything has fat in it.
Because her gallbladder's been removed.
Gallbladder. And I swear by this. It works.
Oh, it's
for
the
those who
grass-fed
have their,
gallbladder stuff.
Gallbladder's out.
Shabazz put her on that.
That takes a lot of the pain away.
Yeah.
Your gallbladder's out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so sell us on the thing. We're ready. I'm ready.
So there's a couple of aspects to the protocol that aren't readily apparent, right? So one aspect of the protocol, like there's layers to this thing. one aspect is like the kind of like the superficial layer of like what it's doing physically and stuff, right? So, and then the deeper aspect is how it's changing you at a deeper level that's not physical and it's not even energy. It is kind of energetic, but it gets up to like higher levels, like your spirit, like your deeper being, because ultimately that has to change. Okay, you have to change that, and you're stuck in a rut, or you're like stuck in cement or something, right? Like you're not moving. You're not getting out of the place that you're in. And like I said, the place that you're in is a very complicated ecosystem that's gotten comfortable in this state of disease, right? And so number one, what the coffee enema at a physical level is doing, and then we can talk about like the deeper change. The physical level, coffee, like if I could reach into your body and like scoop all the junk out of your liver that's collected there over the
Okay.
course of your whole life, I would do it, but I can't, right?
Right.
So that's not possible. I can't send a little micro machine in there to go and like clean out all the ducts that are all clogged up with like vegetable oils or microplastics or, pesticides
Crisco.
and chemicals and heavy metals and pathogens that have gone in there and gotten stuck in there, and and biofilms. Like there's so much gunk in there, right? Shabazz has been doing this protocol, like some form of his own protocol, for like 15 years probably, and there's still junk coming out of his liver because there's just so much in there. Okay, so basically he has to find a way to clean out your liver.
Okay.
So one is like a topical therapy, castor oil pack, very healing,
We've done a
castor
ton
oil.
of
My
that.
mom legit.
She gets
still
the
do.
A plus triple plus on the castor oil.
every
good.
night, the
She
whole
gets that.
the castor oil, turpentine, olive oil thing.
Yeah,
she gets
that is religious,
she's-
and
So
it's
there's
not
two.
easy to do.
There's two pieces to this, right? The castor oil is going to go in there. It's going to like start to soften things up. It's going to start to, initiate some healing. But then you need something to come and like give you a kick in the pants to like, okay, now actually do get, throw out the junk, right? So the first step is to like go and like find where all the clutter is and like pull it out and stuff. And the second step is to like bag it up and take it out and put it in the trash outside your house.
Okay.
That step happens with the coffee enema. So the coffee is a stimulant, right?
Okay.
You have to lie on your right side, not your left side, because you want it to only stay like right at the end in your like rectum, because there's a special blood supply that goes straight to your liver. It doesn't go into your systemic circulation. It doesn't go straight to your brain. It doesn't give you like a coffee high right away, right? Like it goes to your liver. It goes directly to your liver, which is an unusual, thing. It's an unusual form of circulation. It goes straight to the liver, where the liver is affected by the coffee, not the rest of the body, right? So the liver will metabolize it. The liver will be stimulated by it. The liver will take all that junk that was kind of like softened up with the castor oil pack and, arranged, ready to be thrown out of the house, and actually throw it out. And so then it will go, out the gallbladder. It'll enter the stool. It'll go in, it'll leave your body, right? And you need to hold it for 20 minutes. And the other thing is like, it's difficult to keep it in, right? For a lot of people, especially older people. And that is that lock, right? Like at the anal lock, right? Like where you can
Your
like,
sphincter.
yeah, the sphincter, where you can hold it in and not, you really have to go, but you're able to hold it. That's a very important energetic, like law, it's a very important energy center, basically. And it forms the foundation of all your other energy centers throughout your body, right? And as it gets weakened, everything else weakens, like your base is gone, right? So you have to reestablish that foundation, and then you can build on top of it, higher layers of energy, essentially, right?
Is this in any relation to like when women do pelvic floor exercises?
Yeah. So basically, it's a pelvic floor exercise along with a coffee enema, because you're sitting there for 20, you have to retain it for 20 minutes. You're letting it be absorbed into your liver, and you're also forced to squeeze down there for a lot of people for the whole 20 minutes, right? Like when I first started doing it, I like almost couldn't keep it in for like 20 minutes, right? Like, and throughout the entire 20 minutes, I was like, oh my God, I'm about to go. Okay, like it was really uncomfortable, right? Most people would have given up and just gone after a minute, right? But like I just, very, very few times I was like, oh my God, it's gonna explode. I better go, right? But eventually, right, after like months of doing this, it's no big deal, right?
How often are you doing it, Dr.
Every
Haider?
day, every day. No fail. Yeah. So yeah, literally, unless I'm traveling, unless I'm flying and I literally cannot do it. Even when I was traveling, I traveled for 6 weeks. I took it with me and I did it every single day that I wasn't flying, literally flying in an airplane. I would boil the coffee. I took everything I needed, right? Like I should have taken my sauna blanket.
Or is this just...
No. It's, unfortunately, it's just going in that way. It's not going in the other way.
Arizona this spring if you want to come, or
we are planning a trip to Arizona. We're going to do an event out there.
So the other thing, like maybe even more important than all of that stuff that I just said, which like I don't think that there's an alternative.
Okay.
For doing what it does for you.
Okay.
Like it's a crucial part of the protocol, but really every part is crucial. This is, if possible, one of the more crucial parts. But even more important is that it takes you out of your comfort zone, okay? Along with a lot of things. Like for me, I was like retching as I was trying to eat raw liver every day and then drink the green juice on top of it and, the gallbladder thing. And so like, and then the raw egg and like, I was just grossed out by it, like really grossed out, right? And other people, I fortunately or unfortunately, I wasn't super grossed out by the enema concept. I was like, not a big deal, I'll do it. But stomaching that stuff, I like one day I literally projectile vomited it right back out. It was horrible. And I was like, Shabazz, it's like just
it's all in your mind. And
eventually like literally, okay, so for the first like 2 to 3 months, I would sit there, pitch my nose and eat this stuff and swallow it with some water, right? And still be super grossed out by like the consistency and everything, right? Because I grind it up.
It's the worst texture.
It's So
both the raw egg and the liver, raw liver.
Yeah. And so I would, so first I would do that, but then like I wouldn't even let go of my nose until I had like completely cleansed my mouth of all traces of that thing, so that when I did let go of my nose, I didn't smell it. Okay. Because I was just so horrified by it. All right. And yet I persisted. I just said, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And it was very, very hard. And it was hard for like 2 months. After like 2 or 3 months, I got to the point where I was like, I added some garlic powder and some onion powder and some like, and I tried to, and I added some like olive oil. I added some olive oil and I did all this stuff. Still, I wouldn't have been able to let go of this unless I had gone through that phase of like 2 or 3 months of like changing, like literally changing who I am, okay, and my proclivities and like what grosses me out, right? And so the point is not just changing, okay, that. The point is that it gives you a kick in the pants to change other things. Like once you start to change, once you start to crack the ice open or the cement block that you're stuck inside of, once it cracks, you realize, I can move a little bit more, right? And other things start to change. So the point is the snowball effect of other change happening at a deep level that helps to shift your soul in the right direction, right? Which ultimately becomes the true point of any of his protocols that you don't really uncover for a few months usually. But it's like eventually you run up against the wall where like, okay, if you want to keep going, you're going to have to change some of these things about yourself that you've been doing that haven't been benefiting you. Okay. Right. Maybe you thought they were beneficial. Maybe you convinced yourself they were, but it's kind of, what you can put this in biblical terms, I would love to hear it from you, but like the way I think of it is like everyone has certain aspects of their soul that are out of balance, right? Because none of us are perfect. And yet we convince ourselves that they are like good aspects of ourselves, right? And the reason we're overdoing it is because we're just excelling in the good, okay? But it's very easy to fool yourself and the devil will help you along, right? Like very easy to fool yourself that like you're overwork and avoiding, spending time with your kids. No, that's actually a good thing because I'm providing for them and I'm doing it in the best possible way. I'm excelling in it, etc. But a lot of those people who are telling themselves those stories are actually just workaholics, and they've fallen in love with work, and work has become their little g God. Okay. God has been replaced by work. They're not really in submission to God's plan because they're not listening to him. And he's trying to tell them because their relationship with their kids is falling apart and their wife is yelling at them all the time and they're exhausted and, they're strung out and all this stuff. All of those things are messages that like, hey, you're out of balance. Okay.
We are all
this is not good. And so that's my point, that like the protocol will uncover those, and you will finally see, Shabazz will help you see that if there is something like that in your life, what it is and what you have to give up. It's like Lent. It's like you got to give it up, but not just for Lent. You got to give it up forever, unfortunately, right? Like it wasn't in your benefit. You were overdoing it. You got to come back towards the center. You got to come back towards the middle, more balanced approach. And it's not that you go in the other direction. You don't become a lazy bum who stays on the couch all day. That's also bad in a different way. But the point is, both extremes are bad. So the point is to find the balance that God actually wants you to have. And so that's what the protocol eventually will lead you towards, is where your soul needs to take the next step in its journey. And if you're not willing to take that next step, you haven't actually solved the deepest problem. The soul, as long as it stays out of balance, is going to send the message back up through all the other levels, energy, and reaching the physical level, and it will reattract all the disease-causing agents that cause the disease in the first place. So the disease is usually a reflection of an imbalance in the soul that took a really long time to become a disease, because along the way there were all these little signs that were getting louder and louder and louder the whole time that you were ignoring because you didn't understand what they meant. Okay, so a lot of us are in this situation. All of us are in this situation because we're still alive. We still have some work to do. We still haven't reached the end of the road.
I'd like to add some stuff to that because I did do the best I could, and with the liver and the eggs, I wanted to do it. So I went ahead and cooked them and ate them, because I've had liver and eggs every day since, gosh, what was that? July?
April.
May, I mean,
May.
I've done it every day, and I have it. And there is a difference. Even if it's cooked, it does make a difference. And also, he said, just add some salt or lemon. And I did that in the beginning. I add mineral salt with lots of mineral, because of course, I lost salt, right? So I needed salt anyhow. Celtic salt from the ocean. It has like the CELTIC, Celtic salt from London. That has every mineral that a body needs. And so I'd always add that to it. And we're out of it, guys. Just to let you know. We do have pink camelina, so I use that.
I think I have a bag down here.
I did do the chi every morning. I walk out barefoot.
You call it the chi, Mom. Nobody knows what that is.
I'm grounded. I grounded every morning, and right as the sun's coming up and as the sun's going down. And I knew we use silver wire, and I already knew about grounding. So when they put it on, that was easy to do. And when it's warmer outside, when it's cold, I have a hard time go barefoot outside. But I did the best I could. And I always walk every day and get the sunlight every day. That's one on his list, to get sunlight every day and try to do it in the horizon. I couldn't figure out the horizon and everything.
Just first thing in the morning.
But I did that. And so there's a lot of things that he had on this list. I did the best that I could. And like the pearls, I always studied, because he gives the Chavez, right? Is that his name?
Shabazz.
He gives you the links. Okay, so
it's so thorough. It's incredible what he does.
I study to make sure I know what's going on and why I'm doing it. And one of the ones I was fascinated with was a pearl powder. I'm like, oh my gosh. I always know that, we should hold silver and we should hold gold every day. I don't know if you heard about the study about how every time your heart beats, with each beat, a gold goes off.
It's like a little spark of gold in your heart
that gets your heart. It's a minuscule. You couldn't hardly study it. Somebody found out. And that's why people carry gold, because it goes through your fingers and it goes through your skin, and you get gold. It's trace minerals.
Yeah.
But they make your body, and that's with silver,
atoms,
because it's micro.
Free floating atoms. Yeah.
Micro entry. Come on, give me the word.
Micro antibiotic or microbial?
Yeah, silver.
Antimicrobial?
Yeah.
Oh, it's an antimicrobial. That's what you were trying to say. Yes.
We take, I do take silver that's ionized or whatever every day.
Colloidal silver.
Yeah. And so there's everything on here has a real good reason and purpose. And if I couldn't do it, I would find something else that was very similar, like the Epsom salt. Well, because I didn't want to be defeated. I'm not going to take defeat. That's just forget it. I will find something around me, and God provides all you need. It's all around you. If you look for it, it is there. You might have to go away, but it's there. And just don't take defeat because I refuse to be defeated. And my whole point is, yeah, it is spiritual, it is emotional. And from the beginning, I would go through spouts of darkness. I'm like, gosh, this is darkness. This is darkness. And the more I did what I could, like MSM, whatever minerals, that miracle mineral.
Yeah,
solution.
we did chlorine dioxide for
a
several
lot
months.
of that.
I since it was introduced like 7-8 years ago, I've tried it all the time. I just can't stomach it, whatever. But I find something else, like little drops of peroxide with the silver every day, because I refuse to be defeated. And the whole point is, I went through spouts of darkness. I was, I can't handle this. I can't handle this. It's too much darkness. And from the beginning, I was detoxing. And as you detox, I thought that was really important that I detoxed before I got on the protocol. I was detoxing physically. I drank pop all the time. I smoked all the time. And my diet was horrible. I really didn't
Your
eat.
diet was not horrible because we already eat clean.
Michelle cooked the food, so I can't say it. I didn't have breakfast or lunch. Okay, I just had.
She didn't eat.
Yeah,
Okay.
you didn't eat much at all.
But I'm detoxing, and I haven't had pop since March, February last year. You said this is my anniversary, actually.
It
I'm
is
going into
literally
hospital
the
today.
first time we came home from the hospital, because you were in the hospital twice, was today a year ago. And so,
Yeah,
it
so
was
I
very
have
fitting
been-
for us to be talking to Dr.
I've been
Haider
detoxed.
today.
I haven't had pop since that day. I haven't had cigarettes since that day.
Even
Most of my
before then,
foods, whatever I
actually,
used
but
to
yeah.
eat, I don't eat. So I totally detoxed. But then while you're doing that, I was going through this darkness. But like I said, I have to give credit to the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit would come and cleanse out that darkness or show where that darkness is coming from. But I was well aware that I was going through this and I was facing the darkness. And it was almost like a call of God. You're going to face this darkness, whether you like it or not, and deal with like childhood stuff or things of your past. And I just came across a scripture, unless you be converted and come as a child, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 years old, you'll not enter into the kingdom of God, because all your innocence is back there. And you got to get back to that innocent time before you were indoctrinated and before you had to grow up and be an adult, before you were perverted like from pornography or movies or whatever. And you had to get back there. And Jesus kept taking me back to my innocence. And then you gained back what was stolen and what was robbed from you, that innocence of a child, and just the love that bubbles up and the happiness. And you don't have a weakness. We all sit in school all day. It gives you a weakness to just sit down all the time. But you don't have that weakness because a kid just wants to get up and go, let's go play. Let's do this. Let's go out. And that starts to come back to you, because a lot of people say, where do you get this energy from?
She
And
doesn't
I had to
stop.
go back to my childhood.
It's a
and
little
get
bit
that energy
crazy.
that you have as a child, but you got to get rid of the baggage that, like you're talking about, when you're talking about your emotions and everything in your mind. You really have to deal with it. And being detox does help. That's why people fast to detox and get that stuff out of you, because when you overeat or you're greedy or you have a lot of sin like perversion or a lot of movies or whatever you love of yourself, I mean, I'm totally humiliated. This stuff totally humiliated me, wiped out everything. So there was no pride left. But then you go back to that childhood where you don't have pride anyways, because everybody's bigger than you, older. You can't say you can do this or you can do that. And it's all God. It's all Jesus Christ. And you come to that humble state and you grow spiritually from it. And you reach out to others and you can say, God can help you. God loves you. And you just said something that's like, I wanted to hear it like 5, 10 more times. You're worthy. You're worthy.
Mm-hmm.
You're worthy. You do deserve a good life. You do deserve being treated good. And it's like you start to feel that again. You start to know that again. So I'm done with my preaching.
That's good, Mom.
So I wanted to mention a couple of things that I heard from you guys. So number one, like when I first heard about saltwater pools, I just assumed that there was no chlorine, but actually the way that they work is they turn the salt into chlorine. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
There is theoretically there are other ways to clean pools. You can actually clean them with the MMS, Miracle Mineral Solution. You could use chlorine dioxide to clean a pool. So they have chlorine dioxide generators that theoretically could be installed in a pool, just FYI.
No, that's genius. I love it.
The other way,
Ours is
Actually-
very
Tablet.
salty though. The kids have a hard time with it. So
They're
for
like,
some
it's
reason,
so salty.
oh my gosh! So for
But yes,
some
it's
reason, ours
turning
is
it.
so-
It's turning the salt into chlorine.
Yeah,
However,
yeah.
Like Adams
it's very
discovered
salty.
these tablets too that are MMS.
That's what he's talking about, Mom.
Yeah, so
same thing, the
iodine
Safrax.
iodine could do it. You could like pass like an electric current through the pool. So anyway, I haven't done a whole lot of research on it, but I know that there are healthier ways to clean a pool than
I love
than,
it.
chlorine. The other thing is Celtic sea salt. Like I sent a link to you guys.
Yeah, I got it.
You should replace that with Jacobson. It's basically like the same price if you get the bulk form of either one. So we use Jacobson because it's been tested to be very, very clean, and Celtic sea
nice.
salt does not have a great reputation for cleanliness in terms of like lead and arsenic and stuff like that.
Okay.
And a lot of the sea salts actually are like the pink Himalayan sea salt are like pretty dirty. It's better to get Jacobson, which is a good brand.
Okay.
So those were just two things I wanted to mention.
That's good.
I guess, I mean, those were the basic things I wanted to tell you. I just wanted to really like encourage you to double down and, negotiate like a protocol that Shabazz is comfortable will heal you, and do it. And, don't be stopped. This is important because I've seen this in a lot of people that I work with and my own family and myself sometimes, is that we brush something off as impossible. I just can't do it. That's not going to be possible. I'm not going to be able to do that. That's very limiting. You have to assume everything's possible and then you'll figure out how to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
God will show you how it actually is possible. Right. But when you assume it's impossible, you're not letting God's grace enter your life. You're like shutting it off. You're basically, you're saying to God that you can't do this for me, right? You can't get me a tub. You can't get me, I can't do a coffee enema because you just can't give me the strength to do it.
Right.
No,
say
it's
that.
not the strength. It's honestly, it's reading all the weird things online about how dangerous it is.
So
Yeah.
so the point is, if you're gonna go with somebody, you got to trust them, right? And if you don't believe what they say, you go back to them and you're just like, Shabazz, I read all this stuff online about coffee enemas. What do you got to say about it, right? And at the end of the day, he has way more experience than anyone else in the world with coffee enemas at this point, not just on himself, but in all of his patients. Okay. So
Right.
like he's taken people from death's door back to like vibrant health. If there was a problem with coffee enemas, he would know it. Just like if there was a problem with ivermectin, I
Right.
would know it
Right.
more than anyone else literally in the world. I've literally prescribed more ivermectin than any other human being on this planet, I think, at this time. Okay. No one
We
knows
sent
it as well as
somebody
I
to
do.
you today.
Oh yeah, we're
So
always
anyway.
sending people to you, by the way.
This is the problem with the internet. Okay. Any concern or doubt you have, you'll find it reflected back at you online somewhere. Okay. Somebody will reinforce what you actually want. Like basically you're finding what you want to find to reinforce what you already want to do. Okay.
Right.
If you wanted to take coffee enema, you would ignore all that stuff and go find all the testimonials for how wonderful it was, how it changed somebody's life. So the point is that all it does is reveal to you your own preference, right? Which is not helpful for you when you're going to somebody who's really wise and they're a healer and they know how to fix you. This is the point. You have to submit to their understanding of what's wrong with you rather than your understanding of what's wrong with yourself and how to fix yourself, right? Like if you could have fixed yourself, you would have.
Right.
And if you could in the future, you would. So the reason you're going to somebody else is because you need their expertise. And again, like he's happy to sit down with you and hash it out of like why all that stuff is wrong, right? And sometimes why all of the beneficial things you're reading about something like nicotine or whatever may not actually be that beneficial for you. Okay. Like, sure, there's all these theoretical benefits of nicotine, but in the real world, in a real human being who's struggling with disease, even though it's binding spike protein and doing all this stuff and makes you feel better, maybe you shouldn't be doing it for a lot of other reasons. Okay. And so they're like methylene blue, like all kinds of things just trend through the health space, right? Like I should do methylene blue because everyone's talking about methylene blue. You got to ask him, right? Should you do it? Should you not do it? Because the protocol is designed just for you. And it's not just designed for your physical self. It's like there's a grander purpose in mind to help you achieve your own spiritual progress and journey, whatever that is. And again, he's not like trying to, put his own spiritual ideas onto you. He's just trying to lift you up wherever you want to go. Okay. So the spiritual journey you're trying to accomplish, That's what he's trying to help you do. He's trying to maximize your potential, essentially, right? And so most people don't reach their maximum potential for whatever reason. And most people end up frittering away their energy on things that God doesn't really want them to do right now. Maybe he wanted you to do them last week, but this week he wants you to do something else.
Oh, wow.
And so like true submission
agree.
is constantly like, okay, where does he want me to go? Where does he want me to go? And usually it's the place you don't want to go. Okay?
Yeah.
It's not always the place you want to go.
It's most of the time not.
Most of the time not the place you want to go.
I'm just being honest.
Like sometimes you feel like working and then you overdo it. And other times you don't feel like working and you actually need to do it, right?
Yeah.
The times you're too enthusiastic, you need to like cut yourself, hold yourself back a bit.
Yeah.
And the times you're not enthusiastic enough, you have to push yourself forward a bit, right?
Yeah.
So this is all that I'm saying, that you have to really deeply interrogate yourself. Why am I doing or not doing a certain thing? Right?
good.
Is it for the right reason or not the right reason? Right? Am I limiting myself, limiting God's ability to put grace into my life? Am I artificially limiting that or not? Right?
Right.
And it doesn't matter whether you can figure out how he's going to accomplish the thing. It looks impossible to you. It's nothing for him. Okay. Right? Like it's nothing. He can do anything he wants. Okay. like to think to like he loved. Okay. So this is another just aspect of like who God is, right? So a human being, it's difficult for them. Like anything you take from them, right? Or anything they give you is coming out of what they feel like is theirs, right? Like this is mine. God gave this to me. This belongs to me. Now I have to remove it to give it to you, right? Okay, so obviously that's not the position they should be coming from, but take like God's perspective. God has no limits at all. So like where human beings feel kind of like put upon to be asked for something, God loves to be asked.
So
he
good.
wants you to ask. Okay.
Amen. Amen.
Because that affirms who he is,
That's
right?
really good.
Like you asking affirms that he is God, the one
That's
who can,
good.
the only one who can give it to you, right? It is a form of worship, right? So you should ask literally for anything that you want, okay? Even
The
if it
scripture
sounds
is
ridiculous.
Those who ask for wisdom freely, God gives wisdom freely. He wants you to have his godly wisdom.
There
Not
are
earthly
better
wisdom,
things, right? There are
godly
better things
wisdom.
to ask for sure. But the point of like one of the reasons that the universe was designed the way it was, where like there's this reward at the end of it, and the reward is like oftentimes described in like worldly terms, like you're going to have a kingdom in heaven, or you're going to have, whatever. There's like, like if you tell a kid about heaven, it's like you can do whatever you want. If you want to fly, you can fly, right? Like, God is going to he's going to let you have whatever you want, right? And so each of us is kind of like a little bit less of a kid, but we're all like from God's perspective still kind of like kids. And so there's this like paradise that's held out in front of us. And the point of it is like the meaning is that ultimately you should only want God for himself.
That's
okay.
really good.
But human beings, when you're born, they're not like that. They're like, what? Like who is God? I haven't even seen him, right? Like why should I want him, right? Like they don't know who he is. If they saw him, right, they would want him more than anything else, but they can't see him, right? That's the test. So he gives you something that you can understand. He's like, I'm going to give you this reward if you do these hard things, okay? And you can understand that reward. Like it makes sense to you. You're like, oh yeah, that's wonderful. I want that. I'm going to work for that. But the purpose of paradise is it's like luring you towards God himself. So that eventually once you get to a higher rank, a higher level, you realize it's not actually paradise I want. I just want you. I only want to be with you. That's it. That's all I want, right? And you can try to explain this to person from like the perspective of like, oh, there's this really cool person, like you're talking to your kids, like there's this really cool person you want to hang out with all the time, like your uncle or something, right? Like you love him, you want to hang out with him, you want him to like you. So like take that and dial it up to infinity.
Right.
Okay? That's God.
Yeah.
Okay? That dialed to infinity is God,
That's
right?
so
Like
good.
all you want is to be with that person, right? You just want to make them happy. Being with them makes you happy. You don't care, like true love. What does that feel like, right? Like people experience it on earth. You care about money. You don't care about what other people think. You'll do anything for that person, right? Like, and you don't care if it's embarrassing. Like that's what true love is. So that's what God is drawing you towards in this way, right? Using things that you can understand, like a disease that you don't like, or, you know, a reward that you do like, ultimately the whole goal of all of them is to like get you to the point where all of a sudden all that stuff falls away and you're like, I just want you. That's all I want. I've understood this. That's like the point of the journey, is to get to that place. But along the way, a lot of people will get to a point where they feel comfortable. It's like, oh, I've gotten it. Okay. I do just want God. That's all I want. But there's like the enemy is always there. It's yourself and it's the devil. Okay. Yeah. And it's easy to trick you. He's been around for ages, for eons, as long as human beings have been alive. He's extremely wily. He's the trickster, right?
Yeah.
Like if you think he can't trick you, he's already tricked you by making you think that. Okay. So you have to constantly seek refuge in God from him, okay, from the devil, whispering in your heart, telling you, oh, you're on the right track. You're doing the right thing, right? Like, keep doing that. Do even more. Do even more of that, right?
Right.
And you're falling in love with yourself, right? The only one who's worthy of love is God, right? Like, you can't fall in love with your own desires, what you yourself want to do moment to moment and what you don't want to do moment to moment.
That's good.
The journey is a journey of like letting go of yourself, and then you don't even see yourself anymore. All you see is God. You look around, there's just God. You look at yourself, you don't even see yourself anymore. You don't even exist to yourself anymore. That's what paradise actually is for people who reach it. It's where they just see God. They're just with God, right? Like they've actually left behind themselves even, because your own self is imperfect, right? Like, it's not perfect. Like, why would you want to waste time looking at that when you could look at him? Right? Why would you waste time? Why would you want to waste time with like, oh, I want this, I don't want that, you know, these things, right? That's what all of these, like, all the submission moment to moment is trying to teach you eventually, that you submit, you do the thing you didn't want to do, and then you see the benefit of it. And then an even greater thing you don't want to do shows up, and you submit and you do it, and then the benefit comes. That teaches you, if I do the thing I don't want to do, I'm going to get a greater benefit, even bigger benefit. I'm going to get an even bigger reward. And initially, all you see are the worldly aspects of it, right? Like, oh, I got healthier. I was able to walk more than everyone else, right? Like, you see the worldly things. But eventually, you start to realize I'm getting closer to him. I'm seeing him more clearly, right? And that's the real point. And that's where you're headed, right? So that's what, like, the protocol is not just about getting you breathing better. It's about helping you reach your Lord, okay? And see him. So, yeah.
That's really good. I wish Elon Musk and Donald Trump would get that
message. But Mom, you were going to say something.
Oh, no. I was praying the whole time.
You know, I want to give you the highest
see him
compliment
on our faces, and want that peace.
Amen.
And that ability to talk to one another in a communion about God and how enjoyable it is.
This is the highest compliment that I can give you. Okay. You sound like a gospel preacher. Like, when you're preaching that, like, that's what I hear. Like, when I'm feeling that. I'm feeling the love of God. I'm feeling the love of Jesus. Like, I'm feeling, as Dr. Haider is speaking, like, that's what I'm feeling. Right. That is straight up anointing, straight up heaven, straight up, like, you literally just went to church.
So everybody,
and that'd be a paradise. And
so everybody that's watching right
paradise,
now,
you know,
right? Everybody that's watching,
will be done. Paradise on earth.
It's paradise on earth. Exactly. Yeah. That's what's achievable. And very few people reach that place. And it doesn't look like paradise from the outside to somebody who's looking at you from the outside, right? It's like, why would I want that life, right? But it's all on the inside. It's all in the experience, right? Like, your experience of reality can completely change, right? That's the real, love
of a wife, love of a husband, love of a children, and they each have peace is priceless. You can't put a price on that. You can't buy it. I mean, when I was growing up in the 60s, they came out, you can't buy love. No. Because that's when people are going to greed and going to businesses, and I'm going to make this much money. My mom would say, my brother, you got to love. And he missed that, totally went over his head. He became the greediest person, He did.
He loved money.
He started Procter & Gamble in Russia. He went that high in this company because he wanted money so badly. And my mom tried to tell him, love. Love is really important,
It's the most important thing. Leah, what were you going to say?
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, for our viewers that are watching and people that, contact you for help, and I know that, Dr. Shabazz is amazing. Who should be contacting him, and just anybody, or people with like major medical health
anyone,
issues,
right?
and what does that look like?
Literally, if you have no health problems, if you think you have no health problems, that would be like the best time to contact him, because the protocol is going to be a lot easier, and you're going to get rid of the future medical problems, because we're all headed for future medical problems. What people have to understand is that we are, like, the people who are sick are the canaries in the coal mine. They are warning you, get out before it's too late, okay? Which means get the stuff out of you that is already in you. The disease, seeds of the disease are already there. Everyone, okay? Everyone has microplastics. Everyone has heavy metals. Everyone has all sorts of junk, okay? From the terrible things humanity's done to this world that God gave them, perfect. We've destroyed it with hubris and with greed. And so everyone is affected, okay? So like the punishment is hitting everyone, to get the best amongst them to wake up and realize what's going on and finally warn everyone else. Hey,
but who should call you?
I fixed it. Yeah. I fixed it. Even though I haven't been able to change the entire world, I'm able to like at least exclude myself from the harm of it. I can help you. And then the more people who help themselves get better, the more the momentum builds, like, because more people understand like just how bad it is because of how much work it took to fix it at a deep level, right? More people understand just how bad all this stuff really is. And then finally you change all of it, right? Like the pendulum swings back in the other direction and the whole society changes, God willing, that's already happening. But we need to, ask ourselves, what part do I play in God's plan? And if you understand what I'm talking about.
There's a mark on you of an honest man, because when COVID hit, you didn't try and lie and cover things up. And like when I'm almost dying, you were the man. You were the man. I mean, I like Shabazz, everything like that, but I know you to be an honest man, and you saved thousands, tens of thousands of lives. And so I don't want you being shortchanged. And we always say, go to my go-to doc. I mean, we tell everybody that. And I figured you've already learned a lot from him too. It's just like an apprentice.
So that was my mom's question. She said, who should go to you? So from a logistics standpoint, because I know for everybody, I'll do our little intro at the end. This was a personal call between Dr. Haider and Patriot Gallery, and then Lee and I, obviously, but it seems such a waste, obviously, to not go ahead and record it, because I knew it was going to be this good. But back to the logistics, Dr. Haider, we send everybody to My Go-To Doc. Now, we often send everybody to My Go-To Stack. We can talk about that in 1 second, but let's just talk about My Go-To Doc. First of all, not everybody's going to contact Dr. Shabazz, but they can. How do they do that? And then I want to talk about who else should go to just My Go-To Doc. So how do we get to Dr. Shabazz from My Go-To Doc?
Yeah, so it's mygotodoc.com/Hakim, which is spelled Hakim. And, all healing modalities, or what appear to be healing modalities, exist on a spectrum from like the deepest healing, which I think is what Shabazz will give you, but it comes at a price. Okay. It's not all monetary price. Okay. It's the bigger price is like you being willing to do all the work. It's not easy. It's hard work. Like literally I spend hours a day doing what he told me to do. and most people who go to him spend like at least 2, 3, 4 hours a day doing.
No, that's my mom. Like literally. Yeah.
It takes a while.
And it's and the protocol itself, I mean, it is a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of money.
And so we had to spread it out over time.
Yeah. It does cost money.
Over a year.
It's not. So it's the least amount of money that you can spend and achieve what you need to achieve. It's like in the thousands of dollars, right? Single digit thousands is what you're going to spend over the course of 6 months. And, if you have to spread it out, you have to spread it out. It's not in the tens of thousands. Okay. You will spend, I think you will spend more over the course of your disease. If you don't spend the single digit thousands over 6 months, you'll spend multiples of that in the future, right?
So for my mom, and her health is worth everything, I think we're probably about $5,000 or $6,000.
But not because of just Dr. Shabazz, but just overall with
all
the different things that we had
protocols that we've had to do. It's what do you weigh that for in the long term? I mean, that's cheap.
And if you tell him like, I can't buy this, I can't buy that. Like, again, like you have to remove the I can't and ask God to make it happen. But
100%.
if it's really not happening right away,
he's a preacher.
He'll try to work with you. Okay. and he'll try to give you some alternative. He'll try to, he'll try to work with that. And like, yeah, like if you have access to the earth and the grounding and like, are you willing to go and camp in your yard for 3 months, and be grounded naturally? Or do you want to just spend $100 and get like a grounding bed sheet?
Yeah.
Or do you want to spend like $2 and make your own?
Right,
Okay,
right,
so
right. No,
like
it's
up
good.
to you. How do you want to solve the problem? Right?
Yeah.
You decide.
That must be a new part of the protocol because the grounding wasn't part of mom's protocol.
Yeah. No. I'm just giving an example.
Yeah, but
Yeah, in
it's
the
easy.
morning
Everyone
and
should do that.
afternoons.
Literally.
I had to do it both times.
Protocol
Yeah.
or not, everyone should be
So
grounding.
the thing is, like, there are a lot of things he could say, which he doesn't tell you because they're not really crucial for you to get better. Like you can improve and you can do even more things and you can remove more toxins from your life and you can add more beneficial things. But he knows that like people are already spending some money and they're
Right.
they find it difficult, and like he just wants to pare it down to like the bare minimum of what you actually need. And so yeah, you're right. He doesn't usually tell people about grounded bed sheets, right? He's just like, if I add this, it'll be like the straw that breaks the camel's back, and people will be like, I just can't do any of this. I can't handle this. This is too much, right? So it still seems like too much, okay? But he tries to make it as little of too much as possible so that it doesn't, break somebody's willpower to do it. Okay, so that's number one. I was going to say something else, but
well, my other question was, okay, so anybody can contact Dr. Shabazz.
So,
but you have mygotodoc.com for a whole host of things. Who should go there?
Yeah. So like I was saying, that on one hand, so you have this spectrum, just like you have the Earth and you have Mars, and there's a spectrum of like unnatural conditions between them. You have real deep healing, which is what Shabazz is going to give you ultimately. Yeah. And it's very difficult. It's very expensive, right? If you had to put a price tag on Earth versus a price tag on Mars, like you can't even put a price tag on what this planet gives us, what God gave us on this planet, right?
Yeah.
If it was even possible, it would cost quintillions or more dollars to terraform Mars and thousands of years. Okay.
It's not. Yeah. It's
okay.
Needless.
There's no comparison.
About it.
So my point here is there's no comparison between what Shabazz is doing and the other end of the spectrum where you go to the hospital and they kill you, right?
Yeah.
There's no comparison. Like one is priceless and the other one, you would pay anything to avoid. Okay.
Right.
Just like you would pay anything to avoid being shipped off to Mars, honestly. Right?
Exactly.
if you were sane, right? So in between them, there's a whole spectrum of things of less ideal than what Shabazz offers to more harmful on the other end. So on one end is like pharmaceuticals are pretty harmful and very little apparent benefit. But like this whole spectrum of things that look like they're helping you, they are all of them start to finish band-aids except for the one thing which actually fixes you, which is what Shabazz is trying to get people to do. The rest, there's always some degree of band-aid being a taking like a blood pressure pill or coming to me and I tell them this herb will take the place of that blood pressure pill. Like there's less harm in the herb, but it's not devoid of harm. And the reason it's not devoid of harm is that it's lowering your blood pressure, which again is the messenger. It's just shutting up the messenger.
Okay,
it's killing the messenger.
I get it.
It's right. So, and it's not completely killing them. It's just silencing them because if you stop taking the herb, the blood pressure comes back. So the messenger is just silenced, and they're silenced because you keep taking the herb every day. You have to silence them over and over again.
Dr. Shabazz has us taking herbs. Like he will institute. Like so, it's not. Like,
but
you're not saying
that it's in the inside of a greater protocol.
Yeah, I get it.
Whose entire purpose is to completely heal you, in which has to take into account you need to be detoxed, you need to kill pathogens, you need to support the organs of detox, you need to support like all the things that like sweating and going to the bathroom and urinating. You needed to send stuff through all that. You have to drink a lot. That's where the leader comes in. You have to send stuff through your kidneys because toxins are being released in your bloodstream. You need to get them out of your kidneys. You need to have a bowel movement every day, no matter what. It's got to happen, whether you got to take an enema to do it or not. You're going to have a bowel movement every day because the toxins are being released, and then you're going to take binders to bind those toxins in your stool, and then you're going to take super amounts of nutritious foods because you're already deficient, and now the binders are binding even more, and they're taking more nutrients out as they take the toxins out, so you have to put even more in. And so you're using nutrition. So like all disease boils down to just these two broad categories: things that harm you and things that benefit you. You have too much of the things that are harming you, too little of the things that are benefiting you. You got to get rid of the harmful things gradually, slowly, while giving yourself the beneficial things that you need, the necessary things that you need. But then like all of medicine is just like all the details of that, right? It gets really complicated. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I would tell everyone to go to Shabazz. Okay. That's what I'm recommending.
You're the
Everyone
worst.
listening should go to Shabazz. If you're not ready to go to Shabazz and you just want some ivermectin, or you just want some medications, or you're not ready to change and you want like the lesser of two evils, okay? I believe my go-to doc is the lesser of two evils, okay?
I think this is hilarious that you are talking about your own website like this.
Yes. Yeah. Same with my go-to stack. Okay. Like my go-to stack is the lesser of two evils. It's the lesser evil compared to like taking medications or taking dirty supplements, but it's not as good as just getting food, right? Like I recently published this blog piece about measles, and some of the research I was doing, I was like surprised, like how much nutrition you can get from pure food if you just are selective in what you eat, right? Like if you go for the good quality cod liver oil or just cod liver. Like you can find canned cod liver. If you can't afford Rosita cod liver oil, you can literally get cod livers and eat them out of a can, right? You can eat the liver itself, and it's actually pretty buttery and good. Or animal, organs. So like or eggs, right? So if you get enough of those foods, you can get enough vitamin D even, right? Like I didn't even think it was possible to get 5,000 international units of vitamin D until I went and checked. And like literally you can get 5,000 IU of vitamin D if you only eat enough, cod liver oil and other things that are super rich in vitamin D. I mean, you don't have a lot of options, but there are foods that will give you 5,000 IU of vitamin D a day, or obviously just going out in the sun, right? But my point is like, if it's cold and you're up north and you can't get enough sun, you can't get enough of it on your skin, you can still get enough food that will make the vitamin D for you. Some people believe actually, and I tend to believe this, although we don't have proof of it yet, is that in the cold, if you let yourself feel cold, inside your cells, vitamin D is actually created.
I was just talking. I saw on Instagram the other day. It was very short. And I went and I told that to Leah and Patriot Gallery, because my mom literally will not go without her walks. If it is like
9 degrees,
10 feet of snow outside, we are going, right? Yeah. And I'm like, listen, this cold, it is good for us to feel. You feel it on your face. Like I truly believe that, because I know how it makes me feel.
So in Puerto Rico, you have to do an ice bath. In Ohio, we can just go outside.
So no. So that's the thing. Like in Puerto Rico, you don't have to do an ice bath because there's sun throughout the year. Like it never goes away. Now this is like another, just like exposing another layer of like the wonder of the earth that God created for us. Wherever you are on the planet that is like livable, where you can get enough food to survive.
I get it.
Whatever's there in the environment will keep you healthy. It will give you everything you need, right?
Awesome.
The sun is gone in the winter. The cold is there to replace it, right?
So cool.
Or something else, right?
Or the Swedes
fish,
go and jump in the cold water where it's not as sunny.
Yes. Or there's like fatty fish or something. There's something there.
Tons of fatty fish there.
That gives you everything you need, as long as you're looking where you are, instead of looking halfway around the world and like importing mangoes from India in the middle of winter, right? Like it's not meant to be there, right? So whatever you need, if you just align yourself with nature, it will be provided. Okay, God will give you what you need to be healthy. Now we're so disconnected from the natural environment. Like even our rural areas, like you were saying before,
they're
are no
all
longer
poison.
natural.
Yeah.
So like the natural grasses and the natural grains and the natural plants and the walnuts and everything, and the natural animals and things that were running around, it's all gone. It's all been like cleared away and turned into like vast fields of like, just, monocrops, right? So because of this, like Shabazz has to be like, okay, I can't just tell you to go and like forage in the forest, and heal you, right? Like it's not a natural forest anymore. Like the primeval forest was cleared away.
You know what I think about a lot is fishing. Like I'll be honest, because we have the Great Ohio River, right? And 100 years ago, maybe even longer than that, probably like 150 years ago, you could probably go and fish from the Ohio. We have jokes like, don't touch the Ohio River or you'll grow a third arm. You know what I mean? And so like I do worry about
East Palestine going into it.
East Palestine dumped that whole thing, went into the Ohio River that went right through, Cincinnati. Yes. And so I don't want people to be disheartened. I want to insert this part, in the New Testament, it says you will eat any deadly thing and it will not harm you. That's not a license to eat deadly things. It's that when you give God your everything, it's like, God, I'm doing all that I can. I can't tear down. I mean, maybe I could try the 5G tower down the street. I can't stop all the chemicals, from coming. I can't just stop breathing. Right. And so you have to trust that when you, and this is old, it's not even a scripture, but it's still good advice. When you give God your best, he will do the rest. Like that is 100% so true. Like, okay, we stopped eating this regular table salt and we graduated to the pink Himalayan salt. And then we graduated to the Celtic salt. And then Dr. Haider says, okay, well, I want you to get the Jacob salt. You don't have to get overwhelmed that the thing that you're trying to do to fix isn't good enough. You just have to start with that obedience level that says, I acknowledge.
We grew up on country crock.
We grew up on country crock.
Me too.
We grew up on country crock.
And white bread,
They thought it was good for us. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I get my own grain and I bicycle it and
with a grain mill.
Within, I guess people don't know this, within the first 24 hours, you lose half the nutrients out of freshly ground wheat. And so then in 36 hours,
but you can freeze it. And
you can freeze it. You can freeze it and hold it. But in 36 hours, almost all the nutrients are gone. And Jesus had said, I am the bread of life. And then when
give us this day our daily bread,
went into a land flowing with milk and honey. So I look at, things like, what is it about honey? What is it about raw milk? What is it about,
daily bread?
Just daily baked bread and natural grains. And, so all these kind of things
sourdoughs,
and we have, and what we've done is we've slowly moved into those different areas.
You can't do it all at once.
And we've gotten to now, we canned a lot of our own food. We've frozen it. And now we've gotten to dehydrating a lot. So we've got a lot of dehydrated fruit leathers and peppers and
you think about that, like I grew up
like that.
And I'll be honest, like as a kid, like fruit roll-ups or fruit by the foot or whatever, like I ate that stuff as a child. And I'm like now, like the very thought of it, like I feel it's like gross in the back of my but
a dehydrated plum
is like the sweetest thing you will eat on planet Earth.
Tastes like a cherry fruit roll-up.
It's just amazing what God has for us. Now we have a dehydrator, but God gave us the sun. You don't have to have a dehydrator. You can do it just outside, right? Like there's all of these amazing things like Dr. Haider saying, like that you can, that God has given us, and just start with, like we always tell people, just start with like one thing. If you live in an apartment, put a planter of tomatoes on your deck. Just start somewhere where Get a sprouting jar and start sprouting broccoli. I mean, when Mom was really intense and she was doing all the things, we sprouted broccoli, and that was one of the big vegetables that she ate, was like a ton of sprouted broccoli. And that's highly, and so
nutritious.
Back to Dr. Shabaz's protocol.
Let me say something real quick.
Go ahead, Mom.
We also learned, and I'm telling people, Dr. Haider, so in his great wisdom, ask for wisdom from God and be led by God, because in 2003, we did camp outside on the ground for 5 months. We have done this. We had no house, no home. We
bicycled across the country.
We had no bills, though. We had no debts. We had no stress of this world on our backs. And everybody would say, you guys are so free. You're so free. And it comes out on your face. It comes out on your bodies. Of course, we were detoxed because we didn't have any food that we could choose to have. We had to be led every day on our food. Even the water had to all be well water, which is actually great for you. And, it
like at campsites, a lot of it's well water. Right.
And we had sunshine every day, and we were in the sun all day long, and it showed up on us. And so we have done the total whole thing one time before.
Yeah. But with Dr. Shabazz, if you guys do contact him, which I would encourage you to do so, even especially long COVID people, even though you can get all the stuff from Dr. Haider's My Go-To Doc and My Go-To Stack for that too. But what Patriot Gallery has done is we started off and we tried it all and found out that there were things at that time that she could not do. And when I say it all, it's everything minus the coffee enema, literally, like 99.9% of everything minus that. We were going to readdress it. But
as we could afford to do it too. We can't,
exactly.
You just can't do all that one time.
But my point is, when we found things that you couldn't do, either we went to Dr. Shabazz and told him that, or we shelved it. And then Patriot Galley came back a month or two later and she said, I want to try this again. Now I want to try it.
That's
you know
what
what
Dr. Shabazz says.
You have to, if you don't get overwhelmed, that's what I want people to know. If there's things that you feel like you can't do, don't think I'll never be able to do this. Just focus on the ones that you can and then keep it. Don't
It's like budgeting anything.
Come back to it again when you're ready to try to bring it back in. What that's going to do is going to prolong the length that you need to do all of this stuff at once, but it still makes it doable that way. I just don't want anybody to get overwhelmed because it's a lot. Like there's no sugarcoating.
And it was a lot. Like, so I was doing almost all the juicing and the things for Mom. And that was like a full-time job for me.
Yes.
And a full-time job it was 2 people and a full-time job.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was a lot of work, and we've kind of gotten into a rhythm, and it takes a while to get into a rhythm, but you get into a rhythm.
Yes. You get into a rhythm. It takes some time, and then it gets like it's really feels overwhelming for at least a month. Okay. Like that's what it felt like to me. And then it very gradually becomes less and less overwhelming. And then finally you're like, oh, this isn't that bad. It just becomes your habit.
So how does it work for you with your family? Because some people's families are going to be doing it. Some people's family, how does that work when you're, cooking dinner for people? You're cooking 2 different dinners.
I'm blessed that my wife is really supportive and she just kind of like does things with me. So, but yeah, I mean, like when we were visiting my mom, me and my wife and my kids. And at that point in time, like everyone was like eating something different. It was insane, right? Like we were cooking like 4 different meals or something. I mean, it was utterly crazy. And so, yeah, it can be hard. So the point is that it is hard. The price is high, and it's only because it's valuable that the price is that high. Really valuable things, the price is high.
I want to stop you real quick. Dr. Shabazz's consult is not high. I didn't find that it's high. I mean, other people may, depending on your income status. I did not find that it was high at all. What you're talking about, the price is the difficulty level is high.
Yeah. The price you have to pay is actually like breaking your own like self open. You have to, it's a very hard thing to do, that much stuff. Like you're going to have all these doubts and like, oh, it can't be this hard to get healthy. Like, why don't I just go and take the ivermectin or do this or that, or just go to the regular doctor and take the medicine or just do the surgery to replace my hip. Like if you talk to him, he'll tell you why all of those things lead to destruction. Okay. Like all of those easy ways out lead to your destruction, unfortunately, right? Like you stick metal into your body, it will poison you. Like you can like, overcome that, but that itself is going to take some effort to overcome that thing. That if you've made the mistake of doing that in the past, now you're going to have to deal with it by doing certain, maneuvers to detox from the little metals that are entering your body and triggering your immune system, and eventually might be triggering worse disease. The same, like if it's, you shouldn't take your gallbladder out, but now that it's out, you can deal with that situation, but it's going to take a little bit more effort. Like you might need to take certain herbs during your life, right? To be able to help support your liver to replace the function of the gallbladder, right? You might need to eat bitters or something, right? Like that you wouldn't have had to do if you had just healed the gallbladder instead of taking it out. Yeah. So, like I said, like all of these things are imperfect and some are much worse than others, because like the things that are on the other end of the spectrum of like worse, they not only cover up the problem, but they also give you all these side effects and make all these other problems beyond the initial problem. Yeah.
I mean, what you're talking about is like regular medicines, like standard.
Yes.
Go ahead,
but
Mom.
He talks about the deep spiritual aspect that people that are clean and detox. I think the Lord himself, when I was growing up, that's why you have to become a child. You don't fear or worry. I skin my knee. I know it's going to heal. I break my arm or something, which of course I didn't, but I saw other kids break their arms. They healed.
Yeah.
And so when, like, I lost my gallbladder, it was like, when I get in that childlike state of mind, of course, I'll just grow a new gallbladder because God does that.
It's not
Your
outside the
bodies
realm of
are
possibilities.
meant to heal, but you talk about the deep spiritual aspect and detoxing. You not only detox your body, but you got to detox the lies out of your head and see nature and the way you were created.
Yep.
Because like around telling people, didn't you skin your knee? Of course. Didn't it heal?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. And so, I mean, there's just
Everything's
so
like
many
that.
things in our body. The body from infancy, from an embryo, it grows, and these things are meant to heal. And I know scientifically they've proven in parts of your mind can bring new limbs and stuff like that.
I always tell
And they
people it's coded in you, like literally how to grow an arm because you did once. Like the coding is there. So like, you know, I tell people
explain
you
something
never
here?
doubt God ever.
as Jesus is supposed to be like this perfect man who never sinned. But then, why could he do miracles? Well, he just knew that if you stop the bad thing you were doing, let's say you're fornicating, if you stop that, there's things, or if you have metal in your arm and your leg or whatever, you should, if you stop that, you say, oh God, I'm so sorry. Forgive me. And you cry out to him, I know you can heal me. And it's God you created us, who put in us to heal. And like we believe for years, Michelle's got 2 screws in her ankle that gives her the hardest time. She had a pin taken out, but he left the screws in. Don't ask me why. But I believe God still could heal and take those 2 screws out for her, and it'll heal. I just believe this.
Like Shabazz literally has seen people, like they have cancer, like in their breast, for example, and then it'll like start to ulcerate the skin. And like literally it's coming out from inside. It looks horrific. Okay. Like I've seen it he sent me like a picture of something with a brain tumor. The same thing happened. Like all the bad stuff, like it ulcerated the skin of their head on its way out of their body.
Gosh.
Okay.
Wow.
And a normal, physician would have looked at that and been aghast and been like, we got to like fix this. We got to like cut this out or, sew it up or something, right?
Yeah.
Like we got to blast it and kill it. And like, he just lets the process happen. He supports it, and the thing will come out and just leave the body.
Yes.
And the pus will come out, and the stuff will be oozing out. And finally it'll all be done. And the skin will heal up just like brand new. And you go on with your life, and your cancer is gone, right? So
my mom has had moles that did that, like the big moles.
Yeah.
Like my whole life, she would have a couple of these big moles, and then they would just kind of, either shrivel up and fall off as we've gotten healthier and we've, detoxed and started eating clean living. That literally we've had that happen, and then even like little spots on her face or whatever, we would start putting on like cinnamon essential oils or whatever, and you would watch it kind of ulcerate, and then it would just disappear
in a smaller way. My mom did need to go. She got a colonoscopy and she had a CT scan to do so, and they put this purple dye in her.
Oh, this was the greatest thing ever.
And so she was doing Dr. Shabazz's protocol at the same time. And
with the castor oil,
but it wasn't just, this was the olive oil.
Oh,
so she's called, her protocol is to go back and forth between olive oil and castor oil all over her body
with the turpentine.
So we've got these special pads that
you get them on Amazon. They're the greatest.
A special kind of turpentine. You keep saying turpentine, but it's a special kind.
There's a special kind.
Pure gum spirits. He's got the link for it. Yeah.
So
don't go to the.
We've got
Home
these
Depot.
Pads, things that you tie on.
They're castor oil packs from Amazon.
And after she had the CT scan, the very next day she said, Leah, you have to come here. The pads were all purple.
No, it was my pajamas.
Oh, it was the pajamas? Is that what it was?
Turned all purple.
Because they just sucked it.
It sucked it all out of the
Castor
body.
works.
Yeah.
Castor does bring things out of your body.
It's crazy. It's
foreign
crazy.
Foreign.
So this is a point that I wanted to make, like you were saying from the scripture that I don't remember the exact words, but basically like God will protect you from the harm in the thing. Right?
You should eat any deadly thing and it will not harm you.
Yeah. So there are some things we can't escape. If you do the right things, you can actually become immune to them, because the way God has designed the body and any natural ecosystem is, as long as it's like healthy enough, it can remain stable despite a lot of insults coming in. A lot of things can go wrong without it breaking down.
That's good.
And the point is that we've gotten beyond the point of like that stability. Like we've exceeded the ability of our bodies and natural world to remain healthy and normal, all you have to do is shift the balance back towards health, and then you regain your resilience. And then everything doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to all be perfect. You don't have to be like, okay, I have to go to the Amazon. Even then, I can't escape the microplastics, right? Like they're everywhere. You find them even in, no matter where you go and check on the world. Yeah. People have these like, particles in them that, you get them in the womb. Yeah. So it's you're never going to get, completely eliminate all exposure to toxins and completely clean up your life. It's a journey of like getting better at it. But eventually you reach a point where not that far along the journey where suddenly things shift back to like beautiful, perfect health, right? Mm-hmm. Even though the journey's not completed, and you can continue, and you should, but God will protect you. You just have to put in a little effort. Okay. Yeah. So it's like God throws you the life raft and you're like, God, save me, I'm drowning. And he throws you the life raft and you're like, no, God, save me. Save me. Like, where are you? Where's the angel to pluck me out of the water? And it's like, the life raft.
The life raft is there,
God.
Right?
It's the life raft, So you just have to make a little effort. You just have to reach out, grab the life raft. And, you didn't create the life raft. You just have to hold on to it, right? And he'll pull you out. He'll pull you out of the morass that we're all in. So it's just about, you have to oppose yourself, right? Your base desires and your whims and your fancies, and you have to go against yourself. That's basically the journey of this life, is becoming more and more nuanced and like discovering all the tricks that the self will play on you, and to keep you from reaching the ultimate goal of knowing God better than you know him right now. So
thank you for coming on. Thank you. Not just coming on, but talking to Patriot Gallery. This was actually Dr. Haider's idea. He said, hey, if your mom's willing to talk to me, I would love to talk to her.
So I wanted to say in person, thank you.
You're welcome.
Or saving my life, actually,
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. You guys go to My Go-To Doc, and you can /Hakeem, or you can go and get all the supplements at My Go-To Stack and all the things. Dr. Haider, thanks for coming on. I want them to sign up for your emails, because you send out phenomenal emails, by the way. And you do lots of amazing podcasts and videos.
And
I've got all that information.
Right? With all the healing herbs and stuff in it.
Yeah, exactly. So remember, guys, it's not just a conspiracy theory if it's actually the truth. Dr. Haider, thank you for taking this time out to be with us. It's been wonderful and very encouraging.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. All right.
Bye-bye. All right. Bye. We'll talk to you later. Thanks for everything.
The long wait is over and it's finally open. The Resistance Chicks General Store. Our mouths were filled with laughter, our tongues with songs of joy. Sisters Leah and Michelle Svensson have been making their own home, health, and personal care products for well over a decade, and are now bringing you everything you've been asking for, like the Oil of Joy Original Collection, deodorant for men and women, face and body soap, lavender oatmeal, homestead hands, face and body butter, Oil of Joy, soap products, and much, much more. These products are amazing and so good for your skin. We realize that many of our health issues can be traced back to the harmful chemicals and ingredients in most of the products on the shelves today. But even more than that, we believe that our Creator, God the Father, gave us everything for life and godliness, and He desires for us to work with our hands, to take joy in the gifts He has given us in this earth to enrich our daily lives. To learn more about all of these amazing products, visit shop.resistancechicks.com and place your order today before quantities are sold out. You deserve to treat yourself to the best spa day ever. You deserve the products from the Resistance Chicks Joy Collection, only at the Resistance Chicks General Store. Is any sick among you? Let them pray over him, anointing him with oil in the name of the Lord, and the prayer of faith shall heal the sick.